Hello everybody and welcome to Winnipeg Rifles football on Shaw TV. Tonight we have a matchup between the Winnipeg Rifles and the Calgary Colts. The temperature is about 20 degrees with no wind in the stadium. It looks like a perfect night for football. I am Nate Friesen, calling play-by-play, and I'm here with Mark Graceffo, who will be doing color for us. This matchup between the Calgary Colts and the Winnipeg Rifles looks to be a good one. The Winnipeg Rifles are 1-2 on the season, 2-1 on the season, playing against the Calgary Colts, who are 1-2. The Winnipeg Rifles, coming off a victory against the Edmonton Wildcats, 25-17 last weekend, are looking to gain a little bit of momentum going into the bye week.
Yeah, this game has massive playoff implications for both teams. Right now, Calgary is 1-2, finishing this game 2-2. Rifles 2-2. They could leapfrog them in the standings going into the bye. Likewise, Winnipeg W means 3-1 going into the bye. You got to have a lot of confidence as a team, feeling good, get healthy going into the back end of a very tough schedule. Looking forward to watching this battle tonight.
Yeah, and talking to Coach Snoop last night, he was saying that they are excited about this game. They're looking to get back on the field after two tough games against the Edmonton Huskies, where they were in some tough games. And the one thing he said was, although we had to play a tough Edmonton team, he feels like he's got a young group of guys that are hungry and ready to roll.
Yeah, he feels like they're getting better every week. That's an important part of a season. You don't want to regress. And he's happy with his guys coming along. That said, he did say he'd like to see more physicality from them. They're really going to be looking out to try and dominate up front. In the trenches, they've got a beefy O-line, and they've got two of the biggest D tackles I've seen in the PFC this year. In
Chris Pete Schwartz and Jamin Pelly.
Yeah, big boys. We're looking at 335 on one of them, and I can't pinpoint the other one, but he's probably in the 305, 315 range. So big bodies that are tough to move. And on the other side, when you're talking about the Rifles O-line, they're starting, an 18-year-old at right guard in number 66, Jaden Lackey. And, they've got some inexperience up front. They've only got one 4-year player in their O-line. So that'll be a battle to watch, because with the two big tackles, Calgary also has the leading sacker in the PFC as well.
And this is an interesting matchup for both teams, because although both teams have had some instability at the quarterback position, both teams have phenomenal run games. And so it's going to be very interesting to see who's able to impose their will on their opponent throughout this game. This looks like it could be a game of who scores early and kind of takes some confidence and rolls into the later stages of the game with that. But at the same time, it's a type of game where if a team's rolling late, it could be tight, and maybe it's the team who gets a running game going that is the benefactor in the end.
Yeah, an interesting thing about the running game tonight, all three running backs that you're going to see featured are all from Manitoba. Number 21, Dylan Minshaw for the Calgary Colts, is a Brandon, Manitoba boy. And then we also have Michael Rashad and Ogaden, who is quite shifty for the Rifles.
Yeah, the Rifles have a true dual threat backfield, in the fact that they get both those guys into the action, and both of them can do some damage when they get the ball in their hands.
Another neat thing, talking to Coach Wilson down on the sidelines pre-game, that he mentioned was last week, number 5, Riley Nojokes, got some snaps, and apparently we're supposed to expect that to become more of a trend. So look for the rookie from St. Paul's to get a few snaps, the lefty from St. Paul's to sling the pill around on IGF Field tonight.
And of course, the starter being Jonathan Rempel will get time as well. And they're a little bit different makeup in their quarterback styles. John Rempel's a scrambler. He's a runner. He can do a lot of damage with his feet. They like to get him rolling out, and they like to feature him in some read option and some different option plays. And Riley Nojokes is a little bit more of a your traditional drop back passer. However, that gives him some versatility and some flexibility at that position. Something to keep an eye on tonight for sure.
Yeah, I expect the run game to be big for both teams, but you can't just run the football as much as I'm sure assistant head coach Boshin would like to. You need to be able to keep a defense honest and not allow them to stack the box. So if that's what they need to do to get the ball downfield, that's what you need to do. I look forward to watching number 82, Xander Tuchinski, out with the Bombers, practicing with the Bombers, see what he can do running some routes tonight, as well as seeing if maybe Rempel or Noyox can connect with his brother, number 85, as well.
Yeah, a little brother-to-brother action. We'll see if they can make any connections tonight. It'll be something to watch anyway. We're set here and we're ready for kickoff. The officials are making their counts, and they're just about to blow the time in for the first kickoff, and here we go. Andrew Ricard with the run back, maybe about a 10-yard gain on the return.
Could have been more. He ran into the back of one of his blockers. It seemed like, I don't know if he just got blown up and stopped dead in his tracks, or if he just couldn't find a man to block. But Ricard should have had more there.
The Rifles scrimmaging 1st and 10 on their own 30. Right hash. Balance set. Fullback to the left. Inside zone. And it's bottled up for a short gain. Oh, the ref looks like they gave him a forward progress spot.
And good on him. He fell forward. Maybe a little hometown officiating there. It's nice to see in Winnipeg every once in a while. Not the norm. We're going hurry up here.
Oh, right off the bat. Here we go. Quick set. Ball's out of his hands. And complete to Matthew Martin.
Coach Wilson mentioned trying to tire these guys out after a 12-hour bus ride, trying to get their D-line, one of their best units on their defense, tired out. Go and hurry up off the bat is probably going to do that. Nice little coaching here.
Michael Reshot with the run.
I imagine we're going to see a heavy dose of 27 today. He's just so electric when he touches the football. I mean, you give him a crease and he can take it the distance. And big plays are one of his forte, but you got to give him his touches. Let's see what happens here.
Again, hurry up offense. Rempel under center. Play action. Pass out to the flats to Xander Tuchinski for the first down.
That's nice. They kind of ran that jet motion across there with Xander out into the flat, making a nice, easy completion. What's nice about what they're doing right now is they're really allowing their quarterback to get in a rhythm, get confident, get comfortable with things. Rempel's looking good right now.
Yeah, he looks like he's calm in the early stages of this one. Hand off to Michael Reshot again. Slips and slides and gets a nice first down gain on what looked like it was bottled up.
What you're seeing with the Calgary D-line right now is levels, and what Michael Reshot has is patience, and he's able to make these guys miss. He's waiting for that seam, and he's going to bust it for 5-6 yards every time if you're going to create those levels.
Rempel back to pass on a short drop. They're short of the sticks here. Looks like it should be a 3rd and 1 or 2.
We got a flag.
Happens to be a flag.
And a helmet.
And a helmet off. I didn't actually see what happened, but
I didn't either. I was watching.
I'm assuming an
that
objectionable
catch.
conduct or necessary roughness.
Somebody got up in somebody's grill, and somebody doesn't like it. Keeps throwing his hands up in the air. Throw your hands up in the air.
The infraction's going against the Winnipeg Rifles. And it looks like the punt team's getting the call.
Oh, after the play, so I guess whatever happened between the whistles upset him. That's, we talk about this consistently, discipline. Lack of discipline, I mean, you're not, to lose that type of yardage in that situation when you have a big decision there, you can kick, you can punt, or you can go for it. Now it makes it easy, all because you decided to mouth off.
And, that's just some of the youth showing itself in the early stages of this game. Keep in mind these athletes are 17 to 22 years old, so emotions run high in this game, and even the professionals lose their temper at times. However, it's just way too early in the game to be taking a penalty like that.
I always like to say there's a line, and you need to be right on that line. But when you cross it that early, if your emotions are that high, and number 68, Matthew Jarrett, he is a rookie, starting at guard as well. But there's still you need to be smart. Sometimes you just need to turn back and run back to the huddle. Field position is key.
Calgary scrimmaging from their own 20 on their left hash. Back to pass. Complete in the hook curl zone underneath the backers. Looks like a 9-yard gain, but there is a penalty in the backfield.
Nice route combination there. Winnipeg bailed out in zone. The slot back made a nice read there to level off his route and make a nice, easy reception. That was wide open. There was nobody around him for yards.
Yeah, and looks like the Rifles got bailed out with a holding penalty, which will push the Calgary Colts back to a 1st and 20.
That's as good as a sack in my books, other than you get to replay the down. But the reality is you're working hard to get those calls in the PFC, in the trenches. So good job. Unique front up front. They're going a little skinnier here with Samson Abbott lined up in the tackle spot.
This is always a tough position for a young quarterback to be backed up in their own end, and it looks like they're going to go 5R here and ask him to drop and pass. Steps into this, hits an underneath route for a decent gain to get back to about 2nd and 10.
Dylan Minshall out of the backfield. That's a nice route right there. Great job catching it off his body. I would have liked to have seen him turn it uphill a little bit faster, try and gain some extra yards, but that was a good close by the Rifles DB. Good football play.
Five receiver set for Calgary again. Wasdale back to pass. Scrambles for a short gain.
That's a good job in coverage there. There wasn't really much there that he felt comfortable getting rid of the football, obviously. Nice job stepping up and trying to make something out of it. Maybe he should have made that decision a little bit sooner from the quarterback, but really good job in the back end by the Rifles there, especially with all the motion, that's the pre-snap motion that's coming from the Colts right now. Obviously, when that stuff's happening, the communication in the back end needs to be solid, and clearly they're doing a good job of that right now.
Absolutely. And if you're Calgary, you still got to be happy about that. After taking a penalty to back yourself up deep in your own end, at least they're able to punt in positive yardage, and this looks like a decent punt here. Fielded by Michael Richot. Makes a guy miss. Still on his feet. Doesn't get much on that return. Doing a lot of dancing back there.
I love that you're using your best player as a punt returner. Not many coaches would do it, but that says how important this game is, what the win means, and what special teams means to this team. It's important. You're at home. You have a bigger roster, and you're putting your starting running back there. I love that.
Yeah, you got to use your weapons in this game, and that's just another way that you can get him touches is to
Absolutely.
get him to field a couple of punts during the
most
course
electric
of the game.
runner in Canada right now.
Again, Rifles with a balanced set, full back to the right.
Did you see who's that quarterback there?
Yeah, and Riley no jokes is in the game.
It's interesting. We were talking about him being a left-handed quarterback. You played the quarterback position. I would imagine that taking a handoff and all of that is a little bit different from a lefty to a right-handed quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's a little bit different. I'm not left-handed, but I have played with left-handed quarterbacks, and of course, when you're throwing the ball around the yard, it spins the opposite way, so it kind of messes you up a little bit the first couple of times that you're catching from a lefty. And Nyox ends up throwing an interception here. There are some flags on the field, however, so we'll have to check out what that might be. Looks like there was a little bit of early contact.
Yeah, there was early contact. The DB came up and impeded on the route. I mean, there's you need to allow some physicality, but that definitely should be flagged, and it should be on the Colts. Nyox knew where he was going with the football. Still, that was into double coverage by the time it was all said and done. Maybe not the right read, but nonetheless, they're going to gain some yards out of it. So these guys sure deliberate for a long time, hey?
They do. They're taking their sweet time making their
saying down there.
decisions.
How many yards again?
I've always wanted to know what they say in
Yeah.
those huddles. So that should be a 1st and 10 for the Rifles at the Calgary 50-yard line. Again, looks like a very balanced set from the Rifles. Riley Nyox under center. Inside zone.
Oof.
That got bottled up.
This Pete Schwartz had penetration there. Did you see how quick he was off the ball on that snap? Again, when you got big boys like that, they can tire easy, but if you can get consistent reps out of a guy like that, the dominant force and the difference that can make for your defense and your linebacker is huge. They had to double him there.
Yeah.
He still got in on the tackle.
And it's interesting because sometimes when you're playing against two guys that are on the inside like that are loads, the conventional wisdom would be to run away from them. But the Rifles seem to be doing a good job of calling up the inside zone plays here and trying to get two bodies on one and trying to push those guys back.
But that is consistent kind of with what Coach Willison did tell us before the game, that they're comfortable in their inside zone game, but they also feel like they can wear those guys down and that they won't be as effective in the third and fourth quarter as they are in the first and second. So staying true to their game plan, I can understand that, but you'd like to see them try and get Rashad outside and see what he can do in some space as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I see Michael Rashad as an inside runner per se. He flashes off the page with his speed, and you would expect that he's going to get some outside looks as well. But the Rifles making good decisions in game management, punting the ball deep into Calgary's end where they now scrimmage at the 15-yard line. Jet sweep.
Great close.
And that was well played by the Rifles defense.
Zachary Wood coming up and making the play. Great job staying outside on his receiver and coming off the block. You always want to push that back into your help there, and he was doing that. And, you know, the slot back coming across still wanted to try and get edge, wasn't able to. That's when you make the play. When those plays present themselves, that's how you do it. That was a great job by 33.
So we have 2nd and long here for the Calgary Colts. 3 receivers to the right, 1 to the left. Rollout. Throws to the sidelines, dropped
Tough place to get it.
by number 85, Nathan Hillier.
That hit him right between the 8 and the 5.
It was a nice pass by quarterback Bailey Wasdell.
But I think you're going to see a hold here. They ended up triple teaming the end to try and get the boot, the edge seal to get a clean boot, and one of those guys ended up mitting up on the guy, getting flagged. So
that penalty was declined, and it will be the Calgary Colts who look to punt, or at least they're in punt formation, on 3rd and about 7.
Two returners back.
Michael Rashad is not back for this punt. They punt to the short
punt.
side. Kai Madsen fields the punt off the bounce, makes one guy miss, and is tackled on the Calgary side of the 55.
So they obviously like to put guys with sure hands back there because they had Xander Tuchinski, who is practicing with the Bombers during the week as well with the Rifles, back there with Kai Madsen, the St. Vital Mustangs product. What I liked about that is Xander getting physical, trying to make the block and trying to seal the edge for Kai to break something.
So Riley Nyox still in the game. Rifles with a balanced backfield. Going deep.
Nice ball.
Nice ball, nice catch. Griffin Schillingford for the touchdown.
I don't think they expected that play from the Rifles. The DB kind of stopped his feet there, and right when he did, Schillingkirk, the former CIS product, broke free, made a nice catch. But what a ball from the rook, the left-hander, dropping that right into the breadbasket, hit him right in stride.
That was a great pass, a great catch, and a great result. And what happens here is that the Rifles have shown such a propensity to run the ball that Calgary is now tightening up, thinking that that's all they're going to do, and they take a shot at a great time to make that call. So the Rifles go up 7-0 with that conversion.
The hard thing, too, for this type of offense is when you're playing against two quarterbacks, but you've probably only game planned for one, because from my understanding, the reps that Riley Knox did get last week were minimal. Still great to get him those live reps, but they're not ready for him, so they don't know what he really brings to the table. So they're going to hope that, Winnipeg sticks to what they've been doing, which is running the football. And what Riley brings is another dimension in the pass game, clearly, and Winnipeg is very comfortable letting him sling it. Let's see how the Colts answer here.
Yeah, with young teams, it's always interesting to see what type of, adversity they've faced in the past, and if they're able to rise to the challenge. So hopefully Calgary can get their offense rolling here and make it a game. And for the Rifles, they're obviously hoping that they pack their tents and they turn this into a blowout. Moonshot kick, fielded by number 1, Bennett Thompson.
I love the aggressiveness from special teams trying to create offense. I think that's a, Winnipeg Bomber head coach Mike O'Shea thing, looking at him as offensive plays. I just don't necessarily understand it in that situation. And if you are going to do it, execution is key. So from a moonshot standpoint, placement on there was not great. Didn't give him. So now you gave good field position because you didn't execute.
So now Calgary Colts with the double tight end formation. Wasdale in the shotgun, hands off to Dylan Minshaw, who gets wrapped up for a short 2-yard gain. However, there is a flag on the wide side of the field.
Samson Harper had him wrapped up in the backfield for a loss and couldn't finish. You got to make sure you're hanging on to these guys, bring them to the ground, gator roll, whatever you got to do. You can't think they're finished in this league until they're done. A little unfortunate. Let's see what the call is here. Nothing. They're joking. They were just joking with us. So now it's second down.
2nd and 7 or 8. Bailey Wasdale in the gun. 3 receivers to his left, 2 to his right. Dylan Minshaw out in the flats. Pass is completed. Great form tackle. And he bottles him up short of the first down.
Wood bringing the wood. This guy lays the thunder. He doesn't look like he brings a load, but he is tenacious. I love this kid's game so far. Let's see if he can keep that going. Talking to Coach Snoop last night, he mentioned really trying to get Minshaw as many touches as he possibly could. And so far, I just, I thought we were going to see more of him up to this point. It just seems like they haven't really utilized his skill sets. Yes, they're trying to bring him out of the backfield, but he really hasn't got many touches out of the backfield as a runner, more as a passer.
Yeah, I know that it does surprise me as well, because Coach Snoop did make an emphasis on that he was planning on giving Dylan Minshaw a number of carries. Kai Madsen fields the punt. The Rifles trying to set up a wall going around the wide side of the field. There are flags down. Kai Madsen rounds the corner, but does get caught.
That all gets created, regardless of what the flag is, again, by Xander Chichinski coming down and picking up that man, making sure they get the edge, and then setting that wall to get the corner. They didn't really get quite the angle they want, and Kai Madsen has sure hands, and he's got pretty good speed, but he doesn't have that breakaway speed once you turn the corner that you need for that type of return.
So the Rifles will scrimmage at their 25-yard line. Jonathan Rempel back in the game. Michael Rashad in the backfield. 2 to the right, 2 to the left. We have a jet sweep to Odin Ogden. Doesn't quite manage to get the edge, but does fight for extra yards and manages to get a 3 or 4 yard gain. However, there are some extracurriculars on the sidelines, and it looks like we have another penalty.
I feel like this crew's trigger happy. I don't know about you, but again,
it sure feels that way right now.
Where's the flow, you know?
In my experience with this crew in Winnipeg, I will say that they do like to throw a lot of flags, and often I feel like it's early. I don't know if they're trying to take control of the game or they feel they need to do this.
I think they're power hungry. I think they've always been. This is their time to shine.
Well, the spotlight's being shone on them right now.
Yeah.
Michael Rashad with the ball. Ball's out. Ball's on the ground. Recovered by Calgary.
They held him up. I'm surprised that didn't get blown dead. They had him just balled up right away. That was instantaneous. I thought that play went a little long, but, you know, good for them for not quitting until the whistle came, and good for whoever it was that came in, because it wasn't the first man that made the contact, because that was Pete Schwartz. But whoever was the second man in there going for the football like you like to teach in defense, creating that turnover. Good field position, too.
Great field position, and let's see if Calgary can turn that can turn the turnover into some points here. They have great field position starting. This is the first time that they've been over midfield today. Pass to Dylan Minshall in the flats is a little bit too far.
It wasn't a great ball, but I don't know if it's just me. Do you feel like he gave it his all to try and come down with that thing? Kind of just put one arm out there.
He kind of gator on that one.
You didn't hit me right where I wanted it. Felt like that maybe could have been a little bit more of an effort thing than anything. Got to help your quarterback out here, you know?
Yeah, I'll attest to that. You know, quarterbacks don't want to see a half-hearted effort.
Empty backfield.
2nd and 10. One guy stays in to block, rolling to his left. Lots of pressure. Manages to avoid it, scrambling to his right. Manages to get edge. It looks like he's got the first down here.
You know, that's a very athletic football play and extremely frustrating as anybody on that field, and I'm sure for Coach Paczynski up in the booth, who's the defensive coordinator. You thought you had a sure hand sack, but the thing is, when you go in with one hand, anything can happen against a good athlete. You got to make sure you're finishing with these guys. Can't just assume.
So Bailey Wasdahl converts with his feet on that second down to bring up this 1st and 10 from the Rifles 35. Balance set. Oh, looks like there's a miscommunication in the backfield, and Bailey Wasdahl is just going to throw this one away. That probably could be called intentional grounding. It didn't look like it was anywhere close to anybody, and it looked like that was a panic scenario. And
he was within the pocket, so that should have been instantaneous. The fact they had to think about it, you know, maybe they just felt like they've thrown enough already. Maybe we can get away with this one.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think they're happy to throw another one.
I think he likes to hear himself talk, kind of like me.
So Calgary with a 2nd and 20, scrimmaging from the Rifles 44.
These penalties, you know, they're hurting both teams, both young teams. We'd like to see more discipline than that.
Empty backfield, and the Rifles get to the quarterback. That's a quarterback sack by Samson Abbott.
You know, that's a nice quick bend on the corner. This guy's really starting to come on. Had a couple sacks last week as well. That's his 4th on the year now. That ties him for the PFC lead. But the reality is that they're doing a great job in the back end, taking really anything away. His first and second read don't seem to be there when he wants them. And by that point, the Rifles are able to get great penetration, get to the quarterback.
Absolutely. It wasn't a spectacular move by Samson Abbott to begin with, but
good athlete.
Constant pressure, and he managed to make it happen. Here's Xander Tuchinski with a great move at midfield. One guy to beat. Can he get it past the kicker? He can. He's down the sidelines, striding it out to the end zone. Xander Tuchinski with the touchdown.
What a nice return. I will say this, I feel like his sister would have caught him. Another flag on the play, though. We got a man down.
I didn't see if
Torian
there was.
Kitt.
I didn't see what the infraction was.
You never like to see a flag back around there. You always think maybe maybe they got him in the back, but we'll see. Regardless, it doesn't change the spectacular effort by Xander Tuchinski, whose sister happened to win the 400 at the Canada Games this year, representing Manitoba.
Yeah, so that's a family of incredible athletes right there.
Yeah.
One's moonlighting with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The other one's winning Canadian records. Canadian gold medals. So it's got to be a good year in the Tuchinski household.
I bet you their parents are proud. And we have a man down.
And it looks like the penalty was on the Winnipeg Rifles. So they're backed up deep in their own end, which is unfortunate for them.
The frustrating part is I don't even know that where that flag was thrown, that it had any bearing on how that play was. I don't think it needed to be made, just based on how quickly Xander found open field. You never want to take a score off the board. That's incredibly frustrating, especially against a team. You've now turned the ball over. You make a great defensive stand. You come out, you score, really shifting momentum, and then you end up back, right against your own goal line. Good job for Coach Wilson to keep it together. I don't know if I'd be handling that quite the same way. And here we have a man coming off the field.
Torian Kitt, number 97, is being helped off by his teammates. Hopefully he's all right.
Eastside Eagles and River East product, I believe.
And as we wait here for him to be helped off the field, I think I should give a shout out to the boys in VB who are blowing up my phone right now as they're watching on the live feed.
Mr.
Via
Keith.
YouTube. Yeah.
Mr. Keith and Mrs. Keith. Good
sure
friends.
I'm
Good
sure
supporters of the
fun.
program, I'm sure. If only Dan's soccer game was as good as his Twitter game and text game right now.
I know. He might be playing for a national championship himself.
Seems to be more confusion on the field, or are they just waiting for this guy to get off?
They're still waiting. Now they're going to carry him off. That was probably the...
I don't know if it's ankle or knee, but they were looking up on the field, obviously not able to wait, Bear. That's unfortunate. Good special teams depth player. Young guy, too.
Jonathan Rempel back in the game. So it looks like Jordy Wilson is staying true to his pre-game speech with us, and that he is going to rotate his quarterbacks. Read option. Makes one guy miss. Jonathan Rempel keeps the ball and gets himself down safely at the 12-yard line.
There's great penetration going on at certain parts of the Calgary defensive line with the Winnipeg offensive line, but they're creating so many levels that if they could just break one there, I don't know that there wasn't much there for Johnny to take. The edge was sealed. But if Rashad can hit a crease here, watch out, because they are creating some massive levels up front.
I know. They're creating some cut-back lanes, and if the Rifles can get their eyes on those lanes, it'll open up for them. Ball's passed out to Kai Madsen. The ball is a little bit high and goes off his fingertips, incomplete, out of bounds. However, there is a flag in the backfield, surprise, surprise.
Ooh.
Unnecessary roughness.
I don't know about that one.
On the quarterback. We'll have to take a look at the replay here.
His head was down, yeah, he took 2 steps.
Yeah, and the ball was already
That's
out of his
debatable.
hands
The ball
by
was
time.
just left his hand. He didn't see it. That's a flag. You know what? And the way the game is now, what we know about the game, yeah, you know what? You need to throw that. Let these guys know that that's not allowed anymore. Back in our day, I don't know that would have been flagged.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different game than it was when we were growing up playing it, and that's a flag in today's game.
We have another change in quarterback here.
Riley Nyox hands off to Odin Ogden for a short gain.
They keep
Again,
chipping
Jamin
away.
Pelly in on the stop.
They keep chipping away. They keep chipping away here. 3, 4, 5, 6 yard gains. It's going to add up at the end of the day, but the Rifles' rushing attack isn't really. That's not what it's about. It's about these big plays. And when we were talking to Coach Snoop last night, he really said the focus was he knew they were going to get their yards, but he really wanted to limit the big plays. And so far, they haven't been able to wear down those 2 big boys on the inside, and they have been able to limit those big plays. Honestly.
So it looks there's too many men on the field for the Winnipeg Rifles, so they'll back them up into a second and extra long scenario.
Somebody didn't get the formation call in, I guess, or miscommunication on the field. Again, another frustrating instance. This is the type of stuff that, it just starts to steamroll after a while, and you need to kind of nip this in the butt right now and limit it, because.
And it's tough. It hasn't hurt them yet, but in a tight game, these are the types of plays that you look back to as a coach and think, man, that it really hurts it at an inopportune time. So hopefully they can clean that up. Riley Nyox back to pass. Throws a great ball to the sidelines, and Adam Gottfried with the two-tap.
It was actually Schillenford, I believe.
Oh, yeah, number 7. It is Griffin Schillingford, sorry.
These boys have a little bit of a connection, it seems. That's a nice athletic catch.
That was a great ball out of bounds. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the chains moving.
You'd like to see your receiver run the sticks there, know the situation. You got to know football there, right? We need a first here. You need to get to the sticks.
Again, the Rifles with a man running off late. Seems like there's a little bit of confusion on their sidelines with their personnel. Low punt, fielded by Dylan Minshaw at his 42. Tackled immediately.
That's a great job by Big Brother Nyox there. That is, they used him as a bullet straight to the ball there. They motioned him inside, had the slot take contain, which would normally be his role in that formation. Right to the ball, did a great job breaking down based on where the man was setting up, and finished. That's a great football play. You can tell some of these guys, he's another guy that the Bombers had in for training camp, and you can see that experience and how it's helped them on the field today.
Dylan Minshaw with the carry. Contacted at the line of scrimmage, but drags the Winnipeg Rifles tackler for a 5-yard gain.
And another flag.
Looks like the penalties against the Winnipeg Rifles.
Donovan Hillary, Coach Wilson and Coach Boshin mentioned him before the game in the middle for the Rifles, really stepping up. He's a tackle machine, leading the team in tackles. Also, his leadership. That's one of those things. That's football. Once in a while, your hand slips in there, so long as he didn't gouge an eye out.
Yeah, face mask is one of those penalties. Obviously, it's a big one, and obviously no coach wants to see it happen. But when it happens in the way that penalty happened, you're not too fussed about it.
My boy, Johnny Bennett, I think maybe got there a little bit too early based by another flag on the field. That was a good break on the ball. I don't know. I'm a defensive guy, though, so I think that's a little bit of BS. But nonetheless, I'm going to plug this guy. I'm a big fan. He went to the Bisons, wasn't getting an opportunity on the field. Hard worker from River East, can play multiple positions in the secondary, extremely smart, and a really, really good kid. So somebody to watch in the future here.
So the Calgary Colts scrimmage 1st and 10 from the Rifles' 37-yard line. 3 receivers to the left, 2 to the right. Short set, looks like a screen was set up, and the Rifles sniffed that one out.
Big hit, too.
Big hit on the play.
I didn't get a number, but that was that was a nice physical football play. It looked like it was number
52, Dallas Cook.
Oh, so they're Will linebacker.
Can you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Dwayne Johnson.
Calgary was 2nd and 5. Wasdell on the gun again. Hits the crosser underneath. Doing a lot of dancing, doesn't get upfield north and south, so it'll remain a short gain of 6 yards, but enough to move the sticks for a first down. But once again,
my distaste for this crew is growing by the flag. These guys look good rolling in, though. Rolling in their suits.
Absolutely. We saw them coming in today, and we commented on how professional they looked. And,
It's
and I guess
91.
they came to throw.
He's probably just getting a bicep workout in here for the beers afterwards, I'm guessing. Got to look good because, holy smokes, all of a sudden, I think that's his third or fourth flag in the row. And the second face mask penalty he's called on the same drive. He must be really looking for something. That's pretty impressive.
The tough thing is a penalty is a penalty. And so if they see it, they
should
call it.
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't mean that we have to like it because it does augment the flow of the game, and really the officials insert themselves into the outcome of the game a little bit more than they need to. Dylan Minshaw with the carry. Up the gut. Airborne in for the touchdown.
It's a nice physical play. I actually thought we'd see more of that based on what we were saying earlier. It seems like if they kind of got back to that, focused on getting him the ball as a running back, that'll really help open up some of the passing game for them as well. It's a nice physical run, really opened up the middle there. There wasn't really, almost went untouched until the goal line in.
And, this is all a result of the fact that, on the Rifles' last drive, they take a penalty on first down. They push themselves into a second and extra long situation that they can't get themselves out of, even though they complete a 10-yard pass on second down. So they have to punt the ball. They give Calgary a short field, a couple extra penalties, and boom, Calgary's in to even the score.
It really just boils down to lack of discipline, and we can use the excuse of a young team as much as we want, but both teams are young, and you can maybe justify some of these heated mistakes, and the face masking I get, like that's out of your control. Your hand gets in there every once in a while, but to have a touchdown called back and have this big momentum shift. So right now, it's a 14-point swing. You took 7 off the board and you added 7 to the other team. That's the type of mistakes that are hard to overcome over the course of the game. And you talked about earlier how it hadn't really bit them yet, and they just got bitten.
Yeah, and now we see what can happen when you take too many penalties. So obviously, Coach Jordy Wilson is going to be a little bit hot under the collar after all these penalties that were taken against the Winnipeg Rifles. So he's going to want to nip that in the bud as quickly as possible so that his team can maintain competitiveness in this game. Again,
right? We got 2 young teams, so how they come back from this is huge in a critical game. It'll be interesting to see what the Rifles are thinking to do offensively here, who they're going to roll out with quarterback, because eventually, I'm a firm believer in you're going to have to make a commitment to one.
Yeah, at one point or another, you're going to start to ride the hot hand. And what I will say is that Riley Nyox has looked comfortable throwing the football so far. He's made a couple of completions here. And it seems when John Rempel's in the backfield right now that, and it may be no fault of his own, but it seems like the offense just isn't running quite as smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stats and when you've watched any games and any film, you know that the Winnipeg Rifles are a run-first football team, and Calgary has done a great job so far mitigating the best rushing attack in the PFC. And if you can't run the football, and that's what you need to do, one way to be able to open that up is through the air. And if you've got a guy that can complete the ball, and you're getting a young guy some confidence here too, the sky's the limit if he keeps going. That said, knowing Mr. Rempel, he's 5 years in the league. He's experienced. He's got great leadership. The moment's not too big, so he just maybe needs to calm down, set his feet a little bit better to start completing some of these balls that they're trying to get. Easy completions are trying to get him that confidence as well.
And this is the quarter change. So we'll be coming back to action in the second quarter, so they're switching sides of the field. And the Winnipeg Rifles are proudly supported by the following major sponsors: the Winnipeg Football Club, Pinnacle Staffing Solutions, Elite Performance, Home Run Sports, Vipont, and National Banking Financial.
So here we are, quarter break. You just scored, had a nice little breather. Coming back out, let's see how both teams react. Calgary about to kick off.
Looks like Andrew Ricard is deep for the Winnipeg Rifles, along with Michael Richot. Ball fielded by Andrew Ricard. Following his blockers well, makes one guy miss, slips a tackle, keeps his feet going with a nice return up to about the 44-yard line.
I love that. Full steam ahead, no agility, no cutting, no stopping his feet. Just absolutely come at me if you want to. So a great return by Ricard, nice physical running, and good job by his blockers up front. There was a nice seam there for him to hit. Just good job setting up that return. Nice job by Coach Jones, the special teams coordinator.
So the Rifles look to scrimmage at their 44-yard line at the beginning of the second quarter with the score 7-all. 3 receivers to the left, 2 to the right, motion in the backfield, quads to the left, play action pass, screen. Screen set up to the weak side to looks like Xander Chichinski.
They're trying to get the ball into his
game.
hands a fair amount today. He's been featured in the passing game more than he has been the last couple of games, and I understand that. He's a playmaker. You want to get him the ball. But it seems like anytime Nyox has been there, he's gone to one of two guys, 7 or 82, and eventually you're going to have to start spreading the ball around to the other guys as well.
So Jonathan Rempel in the gun. Motions receivers to the line. Odin Agadan, explosive run through the middle, hits a crease with a nice gain for about 20 yards.
I love that backfield. I mean, it's 1 and 1A, and Coach Snoop said that yesterday. He's like, either one of those guys can break it. And so when you got them both on the field at the same time, you can do some pretty special things as an offensive package. Sometimes
Odin
you can do the
manages to
same
keep his
thing
feet.
back to back. Sometimes
Yeah.
it works. You never know, right? So
Not unless you're playing Madden football and it calls you out for calling the play 2 times in a row. You need a little bit of creativity sometimes too, but no, I hear what you're saying. Go back to the well if it ain't dry.
well, and so far they've been able to keep Rashad bottled up. It's fair that they need to give Odin Ugadan some touches. And between the two of them, I'd like to see what they can do out of the backfield as a receiver as well. Let's see what they can do.
So Jonathan Rempel back to pass, throws a deep corner into zone coverage.
There's 2 men there. I understand wanting to push it down the field there, but he definitely had an easy completion out into the flats, a security blanket there with Rashad. They bailed out. There was a lot of field there if he'd have just flicked it down to him. And once Rashad's got the ball in his hands in open space, the sky's the limit with him. How many times do you think I can say the sky's the limit? That's 3 now.
We could do a drinking game to it
I wonder if Dan Key's doing that out of Victoria Beach right now. He should be.
with a little bit of Sailor Jers. We should also give a shout out to our youngest listener out in Victoria Beach, Amelia Keith.
Oh, the sweetest pie, Amelia.
She is. I'm surprised she's staying up this late. She should be going to bed soon.
And probably had no nap today.
Not when I was there. So that was well covered by the Winnipeg Rifles. And it looks like the Calgary Colts will scrimmage from their 13-yard line with about 12 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second quarter with the score 7-all.
The Rifle special teams have made some nice adjustments and gotten a lot more aggressive this year from last year.
Dylan Minshaw with the carry. Breaks contain, but Flo manages to catch him before he gets
there'll
too
be
far
another
upfield.
hold there on the slot back. The halfback there did a great job coming up and fighting to get that hold. Number 95, Hayden Nellis, Dakota Lancer, went out west for a year, came back home to be with his home team. Did a great job on the edge there, just, again, couldn't finish. That, again, should have been, they're going to have it negated back to half to the distance of the goal, but that should have been done for a tackle for a loss anyways. You keep missing these opportunities and they compound and they add up.
And as a defense, if you're able to cash in on some of those plays to get tackles for losses and sacks when you should get them, that feeds that confidence, and you become a much more stout defense because you're making those plays.
Well, there's a swagger, right? You know that the guy across from you is going to do his job, or the guy behind you.
And so it looks like the Rifles are close. They just need to close in. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a huge completion. Unfortunately for the Rifles, fortunately for the Calgary Colts, a huge completion down the sidelines to Jesse Kuntz, who got behind coverage. It looked like there must have been a bust.
There was a breakdown there. He definitely thought he had help over top, and whether the read was on a different route, I'm not sure, but there was nothing there to help him. He was by himself. Good job to catch him, though.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's just football 101 right there. You know, when you're backed up in your own end, as an offensive coordinator, I always had, you know, one thought in mind, and that was that if I wasn't able to get myself in second and manageable, I'm going to take a shot on that second and long, because what else do you have to lose?
Well, and you never know,
right? They
right?
got themselves out of a huge hole, and here they are, second and short at their own, scrimmaging at their own 46-yard line.
You can also get a PI call. There's lots of things that could happen.
Dylan Minshaw with the carry. Rifles,
keeps his feet going.
Yeah, Rifles had that bottled up, but Dylan Minshaw with the extra effort gets enough yards for the first down.
That's a nice physical run right there, because they had that stop for no gain, and he just kept his feet churning, managed to gain the hard yards.
Bailey Wasdale back to pass. Oh, and he throws a suicide ball to his receiver, Bennett Thompson.
That was telegraphed, and the ball took a while to get there as well. I mean, the DV was like, he probably could have intercepted it. He was waiting for the big stick.
Yeah,
he probably could have came underneath.
He's just
and picked
salivating.
it off.
He's licking his chops.
When's this gonna get here? This is highlight reel stuff. The pick would have been too, bud.
But 2nd and 5 for the Calgary Colts, scrimmaging at the Rifles 54-yard line. Roll to the right. Throws to the sidelines for a short gain out of bounds.
You know what?
Bad
I'm really
spot, actually, based on my vantage point. However, it looks like Calgary will be a couple of yards short
wow.
here.
Woo-hoo. That is a hometown spot, man.
Absolutely.
I thought he was right there.
Looks like Calgary's going to go for this.
I like that call.
I do too. It's, you know, they're being aggressive. They are starting to move the ball. They feel like they have some
now
momentum.
they're thinking about it.
And, you know, as a coach, looking what just happened, I feel like if they wanted to go for this, that they would have had more of an advantage if they would have rode that emotional momentum.
I agree. And the defense is tired. You give them time to adjust. Now they're putting in their big, beefy Dirk Chartrand. Tech Vok product. Disco Dirk. Maybe he'll do a sack dance. So, you know, you're giving time for personnel changes. You're giving time for adjustments. That said, maybe he wasn't comfortable in the play call. Maybe he wanted to talk it out with his boys and calm them down. This is a big play. I mean, this is.
And it looks like now they're bringing out the punt team, which is also a very good call.
Yep, they're at that point on the field. Either one would work.
They're at that point on the field. They're playing the field position game. It's a tight ball game, 7-all right now. And Calgary has the opportunity to pin Winnipeg deep and make them drive.
I think they might have thought
field.
they had a better spot than they did, too. I think they thought they were short, but not as short as they were.
Yeah, and then once they realized that they got an awful spot on that play, and they were forced to, with at least 2 yards, and, you know, the conventional wisdom would have been to punt it. So Kai Madsen fields the punt at his own 10, makes one guy miss, a little bit of shake and bake, and he's a quick out.
Ooh, that guy caught turf.
That
was a sweet tackle on the turf. He knows it. Good for him. He knows it.
That's all right.
He's dusting himself off.
I like this guy's swagger.
Yeah. Yeah, you got me. Let's see what he does. So they end up pinning him deep. They got him within their 20. Let's see. We got Johnny Rempel at the quarterback. Let's see what happens.
Rifles had some success on the last drive, handing off to Odin. Now this one goes to Michael Richot, who manages to get a crease, stays vertical with a great gain up for about 20 yards to their own 37, 38
and
yard
maybe
line.
These big boys up front, I mean, when you're traveling with 40 on the road, you don't get the same rotation. So maybe these guys are starting to wear down up front. That's 2 big gains, back-to-back drives. again, they seem to go back to that well after a big game, though. Same play after a big gain. But, hey, if it worked once, it probably will work twice.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. It could work twice. And Riley Noyox into the game here.
So we're in a passing situation, and they're putting in.
I don't mind rotating quarterbacks. However, if this is a pass play, I think they're tipping their hat.
Just a little bit. We'll see. Maybe they run the ball
So it
here.
looks like Calgary is going to bring pressure, but they drop off. Rush 4. Passes to the sidelines. Complete. Great pass. Great catch. And as much as I would like to say they tipped their hat, they got it done.
They got it done, and you know what? Good for them. They tipped their hat. That's a great route by Kai Madsen, knowing where the sticks were, breaking in, and a great ball that he put it right on the outside, right where only he could get it. Ball wasn't going to be picked off. That's a nice throw from a young quarterback.
It is. He threw that with a lot of confidence, stepped into it with rhythm. His great ball location out to the sideline, to the outside shoulder of the receiver for a big completion. And it looks like the Rifles might be turning the field on the Calgary Colts with this drive.
Let's hope they can continue it. Oh, the officials have stopped the play again.
Having another brief conference, probably about where they're going to have their post-game beers.
Yeah.
So the Rifles
Who's throwing
scrimmage.
the next flag?
Yeah. So the Rifles scrimmage. The Rifles don't scrimmage. Gets blown dead.
Oh.
I think Brody Jones is getting called for pulling up the ball before the play.
But they didn't flag it.
No, I think he's getting warned, but
Only in Canada. Hey?
yeah.
God bless this country. Warn you.
So the Rifles with a balanced
If
set.
he did do that, that should have been a flag, no?
Absolutely. Ball's handed off to Odin Ogaden. Gets bottled up at the line of scrimmage.
Oh. Captain Biceps throws another flag.
One of the Rifles with his helmet off. Looks to be putting it back on. Chances are this is defensive hands to the face. If the fact that his helmet was off had anything to do with the infraction.
Good call. You know, emotions run high. We understand that, but again, that's that type of after whistle stuff. The Rifles are moving the football here. You don't need to give them any more yards. Turn around, play it on the between the whistles. Play it on the next down.
And if you're Calgary's coaching staff, Coach Snoop is going to be beside himself with that type of penalty, because he could easily go to his guys and say, "Hey, listen, there's a reason that we're up, or that we made this a tie ball game, and it's for those exact type of penalties on the other team." Riley Nyok back to pass, floats one up deep, intercepted by number 9, Jordy Kimbaba.
It looked so. It goes from 0 to hero. Look at him now, hey?
Yeah.
All eyes on me. I don't know if there was a miscommunication there. It seemed like the receiver wasn't running the route that Riley was throwing, or he just stopped up his route. Didn't think he was getting the ball, but that's an unfortunate circumstance right there. You're moving the football. The last thing you want to do with 8 minutes left is turn the ball over. You're chewing up clock. You're gaining field position. It's exactly what you need to do in a close football game.
So here's Calgary scrimmaging from their own 13-yard line. Double tight ends, handoff to Dylan Minshaw, who's met in the backfield. Again, Rifles can't make the first tackle. Dylan Minshaw slides off for no gain, but it's that type of sloppy tackling that could end up, putting them in the grave.
Well, it's a
by the end
tackle
of the
for no gain or a loss, and they end up gaining 2. And whatever you want to say, 2nd and 8 is different than 2nd and 10 and longer. So even though we're still in a passing situation, well, obviously now because it's an empty. Oh no, they motioned in.
And Bailey Wasdell with the completion to number 82, Brandick McIsaac.
Donovan Hillary with
first down.
the instant tackle. It's one of the downfalls of being a middle linebacker is maybe you're not quite as quick to get there to break that up, but he was right there to not allow it to go for any more yards. But nice job seeing where the window was in that zone and for the receiver to kind of sit down in there. making a nice and easy completion for the quarterback.
So Calgary scrimmaging 1st and 10 from their 25-yard line. Balanced backfield. And Dylan Minshaw with the carry for about a 5-yard gain, tackled on the play by Dallas Cook.
These, he does not go down easy, that's for sure. He falls forward, he keeps his feet moving. Swarming him is probably key for these guys right now, making sure they're gang tackling him, because, the more they feed him, the more comfortable and more of a rhythm he gets and the more dangerous he becomes.
So Calgary with a 2nd and 5 from their own 31-yard line. Guys motioned in, play action pass. Pass to the flats, complete and out of bounds at the 40-yard line for a Calgary first down.
That was a great job drawing the linebackers up to create that little avenue in the flats based on the coverage they were running. That was where the linebacker was supposed to be getting to, reading that hook curl to flat area. And because he came up on that PA fake, that bought him that time to get that first down.
Looks like Calgary is starting to get a little bit more variety in their play calls here. Their offense is getting more varied. And here comes a jet sweep. Great flow by number 51, Donovan Hillary.
The tackle machine. That is a nice play. That's what you need to see on that jet sweep. Let them run for days to the sidelines. The sideline's your friend on that play. It's just can't let them get that corner.
That was a great play by the Winnipeg Rifles
stringing
defense, stringing them out, and Donovan Hillary coming and knocking them down. So it puts Calgary Colts into a 2nd and 12 scenario. Roll left, sets up, turns his hips, throws deep to number 82 into tight coverage, which was knocked away by the Winnipeg Rifles.
Yeah, he threw that ball in the double coverage. Obviously, he's comfortable with that target. I thought there was a better option there for him down low. Take the sure thing, take the yards in that situation. It's gonna come back and help you when you have to punt the ball. You don't need to force the ball down the field at this point, and with the score the way it is.
It seems like both teams are struggling throwing the ball vertically, but they're executing their offense very well in the run game and in the short pass game.
The quick short pass game.
It seems like if the offensive coordinators can convey that message to their players, that both teams might be better off. Michael Rashad fields a punt, has some room, making guys miss. One guy to beat, only the punter.
Daylight.
And he takes it house. Michael Rashad with the electrifying punt return touchdown for the Winnipeg Rifles.
He didn't get touched there, and that's why you put your best player back there. That's why, like you said earlier, it's another opportunity for him to touch the football, and whenever he touches the football, that can happen. He's that good.
And I'm not going to say this is the story of the game, but right now, the Winnipeg Rifles are winning the special teams battle. They've taken 2 house, 1 got called back, but this is the 2nd punt return that's gone for a touchdown.
Well, and not just their punt return game, but also their kickoff return game and their coverage teams. They've field position, we all know, is huge in football, and the Winnipeg Rifles are winning that battle, and it's because of their special teams. They're managing to keep Calgary deep in their zone, and we've seen that Calgary's offense so far hasn't shown that it can drive 90 or 100 yards down the field. And they're doing that in both phases, the return game and the coverage game. It's nice to see. It's a third of the game. It makes a huge difference.
It is a third of the game, especially in the Canadian football game. In the NFL, they've taken away so many of the special teams plays that a lot of those electrifying special teams plays just don't happen as often as they do in the Canadian football game.
No, and you know what? The no yards helps with that because it forces you to have to make an offensive play or a defensive play. You don't really have a choice. So that definitely benefits instead of the fair catch. And, we haven't moved our kickoff yet, which is nice as well. Not that many kickers in this league would be able to pin them that deep. It's an interesting formation we see right now from the Colts here. I don't know that they're necessarily all on the same page. There's a lot of...
They're off the ball an excessive space. Normally you'd want to be about 10 yards But
they
the
bail
Rifles
right
kick
away.
it deep. Oh, and he let it go. Dylan Minshaw touches his hand and has nowhere to go because Odin Ogden is all over him by the time that he fields the ball.
And I will say this, I was a special teams coordinator, and it does make a difference when you can use your best athletes, your key guys on it. So now we've seen Michael Rashad, we've seen Xander Tuchinski, we've seen Nyox, and we've seen
Odin Ogden
all make plays, and these are all, very key contributors to this team. Standardly, those guys aren't playing on these teams. It's a nice adjustment, and I think it's one that the Rifles needed to make because it makes such a difference.
And Calgary with the empty backfield. Bailey Wasdell wrapped up. Flag in the defensive secondary of the Winnipeg Rifles after Bailey Wasdell was already wrapped up by a Winnipeg Rifle.
We'll see if we have some illegal contact downfield. That's where the flag came from. That's really the only thing that can make sense.
So it looks like the Rifles are...
I think it might have been on their will linebacker again on Cook.
Yeah, I think you're right with that.
So, hey, reset. Let's go.
So the Rifles spotting the Calgary Colts some extra yards. Calgary scrimmaging from their own 27-yard line with 3:50 left in the second quarter, with the Winnipeg Rifles up 14-7. Bailey Wasdell in the gun, hands off to Dylan Minshaw, who has room up the middle and a first down gain.
He's a powerful runner, but he doesn't have that breakaway, that next gear, it doesn't seem. So
no, and he's not the most shifty of backs. However, he is, I think he's pretty smooth, and he's got a nice body lean. So when he's coming into contact, guys are bouncing off
it's
of him.
It's not easy to bring him down.
So Bailey Wasdell
take 10 yards at
in
a
the
time.
gun. Back to pass. Setting up the screen pass. Dylan Hinshaw with the reception with a good gain of about 8 or 9 yards.
I thought that play was set up really, really well by them. And number 15, their wide receiver out there, Tarek Anderson, just couldn't sustain his block. That's the cornerback was who ended up making that tackle there. If he just holds that block, they're looking at for sure 15, 20 yards on that play.
Yeah.
When Coach Snoop talked about young guys and effort yesterday and execution, it's dialing that in and making them realize you got to go until the end of the whistle because, in a game where yards matter, 5 to 7 yards is a completely different thing, especially when your offense has been struggling.
Bailey Wasdell back to pass, loads up, ball's a little high and incomplete to the sidelines. And that was one of the things that Coach Snoop had said is that, there's, and I tend to agree with him, especially in junior football, young guys, they want to be starters. They become a starter. They don't understand what that necessarily means. They have to be accountable for their own actions every play. They have to be accountable to their team for their effort on the field and for minding the details. And sometimes it takes some time for those guys to grasp that. Bailey Wasdell back to pass, complete to the short side of the field on a 3rd and 1 call.
I think that's what they were trying to do last time. On that last completion, they had 2 guys in the same area. I just noticed Winnipeg Rifles starting defensive tackle Justin Kowalski has an ice pack on his knee and no helmet. Doesn't look like he's going back in. This is a big blow to that front because he, rookie PFC All-Star.
Dylan Minshaw with cracking off a big run here. Rifles managed to tackle him, albeit with a face mask, it looks like, down at the 10-yard line.
So we got 2 flags on the play. We've got one back at the line of scrimmage, and then we've got one at the tackle, where the tackle was made.
If this is a holding versus an unnecessary roughness scenario, chances are it'll be down repeated 5 yards from the original snap, but we'll have to see what happens.
Coaches and officials trying to figure out what's going on here.
Horse collar tackle. So first and 5 for the Calgary Colts. Scrimmaging from the Rifles 50 with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Calgary pressing to score a touchdown late here in the second quarter, hoping to even the score before going into the break.
They've had the ball for a while here too. They're, slowly but surely that'll wear down on a defense. It's been a nice drive. You'd like to go into the half with points here, controlling the football, going in with points.
They're close. They're on the edge of the point range. Pitch to Dylan Minshaw. Not a lot there. Sloppy tackling by the Rifles allows him to gain another 4 yards.
Again, sloppy tackles, but we touched on it. He is a physical runner who just does not stop his feet and just runs through everything. That's why you need 2-3 guys there stopping him dead in his tracks. That's a 5-yard gain. That's an impressive run considering that it looked like there was nothing there at the start.
Looks like Calgary's doing a muddle huddle quasi hurry up offense here. Bailey Wasdell back to pass, comfortable, setting his feet, complete to number 15, Tarek Anderson.
That's a good fight for the catch there.
Down.
Good strong hands. He came back to the football. That was good coverage. The DB tried to swat the ball from behind, and he held on nice there. What I am noticing is he's only really looking at one half of the field here. He had his RB out to the flat here, wide open with nobody around. Didn't even look.
Hand off to Dylan Minshaw. Starting to get some creases here, and he's starting to get some...
I wonder if that's due to another hold. Rifles are going to take a timeout here.
Number 50, looks like... Look. So Calgary ends up getting called for a holding, and they should be pushed back for a 1st and 20 here.
That
with
negates a big
45.
run too. You're having success on a drive, and you've had 2 big plays come back because of holds. And as a running back, I can't imagine how frustrating that is. You've managed to break 2 off, one huge run and another one for a 1st down. You're doing everything you can to have it come back twice. That becomes pretty deflating for an offense.
Absolutely. Dylan Minshaw is going to be a tired guy at the end of this game. He is toting the rock heavy in the second quarter.
They definitely started to come to him in the second a lot more. It seemed like they wanted to maybe try and switch it up, keep the Rifles honest in the first, but they realized what their bread and butter is, and it works. So keep going to it, keep giving him the rock. He gets better the more he touches it, like most running backs.
Absolutely. And one of the other things, it's definitely possible that the offensive coordinator for the Calgary Colts was trying to test out some theories that he had based on what he had seen in film
coverage.
and was a little bit excited to do it maybe in the first part of the game, and now we're starting to see what his his generic game plan more than the bells and whistles he wanted to show us in the beginning. Bailey Wasdell flushed out of the pocket, looking around, makes one guy miss with a nice move, manages to get out of bounds, but not before getting lit up by Andrew Ricard on the sidelines as he unwisely tried to stay inbounds.
Quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators are cringing at that. I love the effort, but you're the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
You need to be smart. You need to realize when it's not there and save yourself that contact.
He was so close to being home free. I don't know why he stood up at the sidelines. When he goes back to film and he sees that, he'll remember that and hopefully
they'll point
he'll
it
learn
out
from that.
I don't think Coach Snoop won't point that out.
So 2nd and 12 for Calgary. Ball's thrown incomplete.
It seems to me like he has a little bit of almost a sidearm release every once in a while that doesn't allow the ball to sail quite properly and sail a little bit lower. Like that was a low thrown ball. I don't know about the placement there. He wasn't necessarily making it easy for his receiver to make a catch on that route. great job by the Rifles to make that stand again, come up. They knew what they had. They had to protect 20 yards, and they did that. They didn't allow anything to get over top of them, kept it underneath, and the Colts weren't able to really make anything more of it. Great coverage in the back end again. I think the coverages that they're seeing are really confusing the quarterback. Do we have another timeout?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Bailey Wasdell is able to set his feet and throw in rhythm or confidence with his reads very often yet. We'll credit the Winnipeg Rifles for good coverage, as it doesn't seem like there's very much open for him right now.
Well, and like Coach Wilson talked about last week, the defensive line had 8 sacks, but he made mention that those 8 sacks, those belong to the defensive backs just as much as they do the defensive line, because the coverage was there. And as a former defensive lineman and also defensive coordinator, if you've got great coverage in the back end, it's going to allow you to get pressure, and to get pressure with your 4-man front. That's huge.
Absolutely. So it looks like the Calgary Colts are calling an audible here, and they're going to go for it on 3rd and 12. Gutsy call with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. They would provide the Winnipeg Rifles with a short field if they can't convert here. Bailey Wasdale back to pass, sets his feet, throws down the seam, lofts it up, and it's picked off by the Winnipeg Rifles.
So, again, he had the man right down the seam. The ball just needed to be there a little bit quicker. Traveled a little bit too much arc on that ball. It hung up in the air a little bit too much, allowing the defensive back. Great play by him. I'm not taking anything away from that. It was a great break to come in and undercut that. But if that ball was thrown with a little bit more pinpoint accuracy, I think you're seeing a completion on that play. Oh, and
Absolutely.
the penalty? What did they call?
They called illegal contact on number 52, Dallas Cook, and this 3rd down will be replayed. And
that's not an automatic first down?
I guess not. To go back to the last play, I think that if he would have thrown that down the seam with a little bit more heat, that would have been a completion, no doubt.
So Rifles, again, put themselves in a tough position by a penalty.
Bailey Wasdale back to pass. Nice completion over the middle to number 1, Bennett Thompson.
Somebody got a hand on
down.
that. I mean, that's a good play call. Take an easy first there. I think that guy's a possession receiver. He kind of looks a little Nick Lewis-like to me. So, great play call. I like the fact, if they don't go for it on 3rd and 12, they're not where they are right now. So a great job to put it all out there. I think that tells you a lot about what you think about your team and the confidence you have and the confidence you're trying to instill as a coach.
And the Rifles have that play wrapped up. Samson Abbott in the backfield essentially takes the handoff from the quarterback.
That play took a while to develop. They're trying to run that jet motion across and trying to get them to bite and overcommit on that. Rifles did a great job staying disciplined, and it seemed like it took a while to get Minshaw the ball there. Just seemed like it was a play that took a little too long to develop.
So Calgary, 2nd and 11 from the Rifles' 17-yard line. Bailey Wasdale steps up, throws into double coverage, and it's dropped.
So they're going to take the 3 here? Looks like it.
That would be conventional wisdom to go for, 3 going into the half. Try and ride some momentum. That was a great drive by them. Showed some guts there. Having to put a number of plays together back to back, some penalties. They were able to overcome that. Obviously, they're not going to score a touchdown here, but they're putting themselves in a position to score points.
Something to build off of going into the half.
The hold's down. The ball's up. The field goal is good. So that makes the score Winnipeg Rifles 14, the Calgary Colts 10. With 34 seconds left in the 2nd quarter.
And these two teams are very evenly matched. Coach Wilson talked to us about the game, about the parity in the PFC and how there isn't much of one. You're playing a good team each and every week, and that's definitely reflecting on the field of play today. But I will say that, the Rifles decided to take the football here. So they're getting aggressive, maybe.
They want to get as many plays as they can. A little bit, I would expect to, based on the special teams success that they've had, that maybe they wanted to return the ball. But obviously I'm wrong, because Michael Rashad's off to the races, and it doesn't look like he's going to be caught. That's an explosive player making a big play, and Calgary has got to feel deflated.
And that is why that takes the wind out of your sails going into half. He just had a big drive. You know what? Great call by the Rifles coaching staff to take the ball there, put the ball in their best players' hands, and just see what happens. We talked about it. Coach Snoop saying we got to limit those big plays. So far, they've allowed two punt returns, and Rashad to run for a couple big runs, but that was what, 65 yards?
Yeah, crossing guys up.
Left, right, and center.
Left, right, and center, but speed to burn, and outruns everybody into the end zone ultimately.
And when you're playing a back like that, it's hard to keep him contained for the whole 60 minutes. But the last thing you can live with, the 10, the 20-yard gains, but that 65-yard gain, when you know what's happening, he's under center, right? When the Rifles go under center, generally speaking, so far it's been a handoff. And so the odds are they're going to put it in their best player's hands. You should be just stuffing that box and doing everything in your power to limit that happening.
And really, if I look at the first half, if I look back to Coach Snoop's game plan, and that was to bottle him up to, not a lot of big runs, that there's just been this slow build of more explosive plays happening as we've been going on during the game. And maybe that's their D-line getting tired, because in the beginning, their D-line was the only thing that was stopping them, that was stopping the Winnipeg Rifles running game.
I think that is a key part, staying true to your game plan. I also think that the special teams play has just been so one-sided and made such a massive difference. And I think going into this half, if you're the Calgary Colts, you're trying to calm your team down. You're trying to keep them understanding that we got to keep pounding. We can't quit. We're in this thing still. I mean, you're only down 2 scores. So you're still in this football game. You're not out of it by a long shot. You still got 30 minutes left to play. And if you're the Rifles, you're going into the half, you're feeling really good, but you need to temper those expectations. You need to make sure you keep your guys grounded, make sure they understand that, we still got another half of football left to play. We got to keep this going. You can't let them take the foot off the gas.
Calgary Colts hand off to Dylan Minshaw up the middle for a nice gain of about 8 yards with 12 seconds left on the clock. Looks like there's a timeout by the Calgary Colts. There is still time left for the Calgary Colts to take a shot here, or 1 or 2 shots. I'm not surprised they ran the ball on the first play. However, I would expect that that if they don't convert on this play, that they'll be taking a shot.
Yeah. I mean, what do you got to lose, right? So long as you don't let them return anything for a touchdown. It's the last play of the half, and you're trying to be as aggressive as you possibly can. You're trying to keep your team in it, both mentally. You want to make sure you're instilling the confidence. We're not taking the foot off the gas as a coaching staff. We got to keep pounding. So I 100% agree with you.
Calgary scrimmaging from their own 39-yard line, 2nd and 1. 12 seconds left in the second quarter. Bailey Wasdale back to pass. Quick dump to Dylan Minshaw, who's quickly out of bounds with 6 seconds left on the clock. They get themselves to their own 50-yard line.
So that's the second time he's completed a ball like that to Minshaw. The first time it was a much longer situation. That has been open almost all game. And to me, if that's going to give you the confidence, you should take that until they come up and stop it. I mean, you're going to get 7 to 12 yards almost every time you complete that ball.
Well, especially the Winnipeg Rifles have done a great job tackling in that scenario, but they're in the open field, and if Dylan Minshaw can make a miss, that can go for a long distance.
And see, so now they're playing a little bit more cautious with that. That's a good job by their will linebacker to come up and see it. But you can't, the Rifles have done this too. Both teams have been guilty for it offensively. It works once, and then they go right back to it the following play. I'm not saying you can't run the same play twice, 3, 4, 5 times in a game. You do, maybe it's out of different formations. I'm just questioning, you become a little bit more predictable. If it works once, you're going to go right back to it again. And both teams have done it.
New quarterback for Calgary. Looks like Bailey Wasdell got shaken up on the last play. Oh, and great coverage once again by number 29, Troy Wilson. You know, he's come up with a number of big plays as they're trying to attack that seam downfield.
Yeah, you know, he's there. He's playing the strong side corner, so typically you don't maybe see a lot of action there. But the way they're playing their coverage and how they're having their DBs bail, he's able to carry a lot of those deep routes. And because it seems like the ball, just based on how the ball's being released and how it's traveling, that ball hangs up there a little bit longer than I would like my quarterback to have that ball in the air on that throw. I think those are two easy completions if you can throw a little bit more heat on it.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because these young quarterbacks, they think that they can throw the ball downfield and put some mark on it, but they don't. But what they don't realize is when the ball's in the air, the DB is going to recover. He's going to make up some of that ground. Although it looks open, if you throw it that late, chances are the DB is going to catch it or catch up to it just because nobody in this league has the arm to put it 50 yards in the air.
Not right now. We've seen quarterbacks who are able to do that, but that are few and far between in this league.
Absolutely. But a very competitive first half, a couple of explosive plays by the Winnipeg Rifles. Michael Rashad are the difference in making the score 21-10 for the Rifles over the Calgary Colts.
Yeah, and you know, I think going into the halves here, I think you need to be happy with the way both teams have played if you're a coach. Again, it's limiting the mistakes that you're shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, we saw a big play that takes you down into the red zone for the Colts come back on a hold. We saw then another 10-yard gain come back, and we've seen the Rifles actually take points off the board. They should be up another 7 based on bad decisions. You need to really reel in the discipline here. I think that's one thing you need to be talking about from both coaching staffs. If you're the Rifles, you want to keep the foot on the gas. We're not done. We're sending a message. These guys, this is a big game. These guys, they're coming into our house. This is the only time we're seeing this team this year. Let's keep going. Let's keep pounding the rock. Let's keep being successful. Let's keep being aggressive. The one thing with young teams that I've always found is that sometimes they're prone to letting up a little bit when they've managed to gain a big lead. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be really challenging. On the flip side, with Coach Snoop, you know, you need to be happy. You came 12 hours on a bus. You've been competitive in the game. You've had a few things go your way. You've had a few things go against you. But you really need to really have your team again with a young team that's kind of now lost 2 in a row to the Huskies. You really want to make sure you keep that confidence. You keep these guys up. You keep making them understand that we're still in this game. A couple things, we're doing some things well. We fix a few things, especially in special teams, and maybe you try and get a bit of a defensive rotation going in on your front line to give some of those big boys a little bit more rest. And you can come out and you can be competitive and possibly get a quick score here after the half, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah, that'll be key for Calgary, is scoring early in the third quarter to give themselves confidence for the remainder of the game. Like you said, they're a young team, and scoring early would definitely go a long ways towards them having a lot of confidence going forward. So we're going to take a short break here for halftime, and we'll be back on the air shortly before the kickoff in the second half. Thank you for tuning in to Winnipeg Rifles football on Shaw TV. Welcome back to Winnipeg Rifles football on Shaw TV. We're back here. I am Nate Friesen, and I'm here with Mark Riceffo.
What's up, y'all?
Rifles are up 21-10 over the Calgary Colts. It was a competitive first half with a late touchdown, making it a little bit more out of touch than the game actually seems. Calgary returning the kick, Dylan Minshaw pinballing off of a couple of people and getting his way up to the 33-yard line with a good return.
Again, looking for avenues to get the best player of your ball. I love the coaching here in this game with that. No fear of anybody getting injured or hurt. We talked about it in the first half. Special teams have really been the biggest difference when you're looking at the first half stats in this game, and we're looking to see some adjustments here in the second half.
So, Calgary quarterback Bailey Wasdell under center. Ball's on the ground, but manages to give the counter handoff to Dylan Minshaw, who gets another tough couple of yards for about a 5-yard gain.
That's a nice block by Bennett Thompson there on the end, coming down. Nice physical block. I like to call him Nick Lewis. Definitely more of a bigger-bodied receiver, a possession-type guy, but obviously has no fear of being physical.
Looking at the halftime stats, Bailey Wasdell was at 15 for 20 for 143 yards, which when we looked at the halftime stats, we were a little bit surprised, but at the same time, he has played well.
You know, I know I asked you, I won't say what your answer was, but we both thought he was hitting around 50% on his completions and didn't think he'd thrown quite as many as 20 balls. Obviously playing a little bit more of a balanced approach than what the Rifles are doing right now, because when you look at what the Rifles have done, you're not seeing quite the same you're seeing a high completion percentage, but not as many attempts in the passing game. It's really been about focusing on pounding the rock. Got a measure here.
So Bailey's a young quarterback who's trying to find his identity as a starting quarterback with the Calgary Colts, and this is a fine performance. This is something that if he can continue to play this well in the second half of this football game, this is something he can build on.
Well, and the other thing we're not talking about is he's had some bad drops. It seems like his deep balls are hanging up there a little bit too long, allowing the DBs to come in and make plays on the ball, but his short game attack has been really good, and that's really been what the focal point is. They're not stretching the field a ton with him. I know talking to Coach Snoop, they're really, really happy with him. They're really happy with how he's progressing and really excited about his future with the team and what he can do for them.
So Calgary scrimmaging on their own 43-yard line, 1st and 10. 2 receivers to the right, 2 to the left. Hand off to Dylan Minshaw in the backfield. Tackle's been missed. Second tackler misses a tackle. 3rd and 4th tackler and managed to bring him down. This boy's a load.
That is a really nice, 7, 8 yard run? Physical, nice spin move there out of the backfield. It was interesting. I don't know if it was a planned front, but the Rifles played their nose tackle about 2 yards off the ball because they lost their starting interior tackle. I don't know if it's just something that they do, but it looks like they're offsetting their line and playing their nose tackle almost a yard further back than usual.
Looks like procedure might be called. We'll see if the refs think that the defense was baited.
You know what, regardless, that's exactly what you need to do. Hayden Ellis there, I love how he wants to get off the ball. He's quick. You obviously are taught to go on O-lineman's movement as a defensive lineman. So I love that, and I love the fact that the flag is thrown, and instantly he doesn't even care. You're pointing at the other guy. No, it was him.
Absolutely, that's part of the gamesmanship of playing football. You know, even if you might have been offside yourself, you got to pin it on the other guy as quickly as possible. Half the time it's the sell job more than it is the actual penalty. So Calgary push back, now scrimmaging at their 46-yard line, 2nd and 8. Wasdell back to pass. Throws a hard pass, a little bit behind the receiver.
I would say that if that was a better ball, that ball was a little bit low, and it seems like he kind of, when he's trying to get that ball in a little bit of a lower position for his receiver to make a play on, he somewhat kind of Brett Favre-like sidearms that ball a little bit. I like the heat on the ball. It was there, but if he places that ball a little bit better, I feel like you're probably getting that ball caught, but at worst, you're probably going to draw a flag for PI. But because the ball was behind him, not catchable, the rifle defender that got there a little bit early, there's no consequence for that. It's all about that placement.
And the Rifles were arguing that they might have had an interception on that play. However, the call on the field stands as incomplete, and the Calgary Colts will now punt the football. Ooh. Xander Tuchinski back. Oh, the ball's over the punter's head, scrambling, and he's down on the turf, back at his own 18-yard line. That gives the Rifles excellent field position for their first possession here in the third quarter.
I imagine that is not how they drew that up. I've thought all along that the Colts long snapper has been sailing the ball a little bit high. Obviously, it hasn't cost him. Now it's one that went over his head, and you'd like to have seen the punter be a little bit more aware of what was happening to get that kickoff, because he still had a little bit of time. Try and get it off your foot. You're not going to run for a first down there.
Jonathan Rempel in the backfield. Takes the ball back to pass. One-on-one on the weak side. Throws the ball a little bit far inside. Going for Brendan Nyox. Ball falls incomplete.
They're trying to run a fade route there. Nice, and it was a nice route, but the ball just was placed nowhere near where it needed to be. It was underthrown, and Nyox actually ended up becoming the defensive back there a little bit. He had to go up and try and play that because it was going to be intercepted if he doesn't. That's a great play. Great recognition by him to realize where the ball was going and make a play on that, saving an interception.
Rifles, 2nd and 10. Jonathan Rempel misses the handoff, rolls out right, makes a guy miss. A lot of wheels going down towards the goal line, spins at the sidelines, and he's down to the 1-yard line.
Johnny Rocket. That's kind of what he brings to the game, though. The ability, and I'm surprised we don't see the Rifles try and use him more in the passing game on the boot, because once he can get outside the tackles, he is a dynamic in what he can do, because he can run the ball well.
And that's the type of player that he is. He's the type of player that, plays outside of the lines in football. He plays outside of the X's and O's of what a coach draws up, and he's the type of guy who can make somebody miss and make a big play. He looks to be shaken up here. He's down on the sidelines with the training crew attending to him. I don't know exactly what's wrong with him. He's lying on his back. However, the Rifles have scored a touchdown.
The Rook gets in with the 1-yard
28-10.
I know that Coach Wilson said that last week was a big eye-opening experience for Riley Nyox, but he's come out today, he's thrown for one, he's rushed for one. He's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Absolutely. As a young guy, anytime that you have even small successes on the field, it really helps your game in the long run, because you can feed on those experiences and think back to yourself, oh yeah, I did well here, I did well here, I did well here. I just have to continue to do those things and, stay with the program, and good things will happen in the end. So kudos to Riley and being able to execute his offense very well.
And again, we talked about it, the Rifles coming out. I mean, tale, two halves, but Calgary comes out, does exactly what we say you don't want to do, comes out, muffs a snap, gives them great field position, and the Rifles come up and do exactly what we would want them to do, right? They're keeping the foot on the gas. Yeah, we've got great field position. Let's get a quick score here, and let's keep it going. Keep pounding.
And this is junior football. Junior football is going to be more competitive generally than what you're going to see in the high school leagues if you go to watch minor football, because what you're hoping for is that these guys have seen and experienced some type of adversity, and they're able to answer to that. So what I'm hoping to see here is Calgary with a big drive to score some points, to answer back, to make this a football game. Dylan Minshaw with the return. up to the 27-yard line.
He's going to be needing an ice bath after this game. They are giving him the ball any which way they can. You know, the other thing that we need to touch on is the fact that it seems like that game plan of running at those big boys and trying to tire them out, it has worked. Rifle staying true to what they wanted to do, and that's something that in the past we've seen them steer from their game plan a little bit too early. I like the fact that they kind of dug in their heels and said, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to keep going.
Calgary with an empty backfield. Wasdale back to pass, sets his feet, throws a nice strike to number 19, Jesse Kuntz, who makes a guy miss, and
shoestring tackle by number 29, Troy Wilson, to save some major yardage because he got a little bit turned around there and managed to give him the outside.
Calgary scrimmaging 2nd and 1 from their 37-yard line. Wasdale back to pass, hits a slant over the middle for a great gain to number 82, Brandon McIsaac. That was one of those throws that I was talking about where I was waiting to see Bailey Wasdale step into a throw with a lot of confidence. This is a quarterback right now who's starting to stack completions together, and he's playing well. Sets his feet, throws for another completion out to the flats to number 85, Nathan Hillier.
You know, again, though, we're seeing a lack of execution. We're seeing, great quarterback play from the Colts, but they're trying to set up these screens, and in order to set up that screen and be successful, you need to set up a block, and they're just not getting those blocks to get that extra yardage out of those, nice completions.
Bailey Wasdale back to pass again. Pump fakes, steps up, he's on the run. He manages to sidestep somebody, puts the ball out, fumbles it as he's trying to extend for extra yards. The ball comes out, but it's recovered by Calgary. Maybe a little bit ill-advised to stretch the ball out in that particular situation. I get it if it's a goal line and you're trying to plunge over the goal line, but to get an extra yard that's not going to even convert a first down, something that, when you go back to the tape, maybe Mr. Wasdale thinks.
I'm convinced if you ask this Wasdale cat who his favorite NFLer Q was, it's got to be Favre, because he's doing some things like that competitive fire there where he doesn't think about it. The number, the way he throws the ball.
Bailey Wasdale back to pass, sets his feet, complete underneath to what seems to be his favorite target today, Jesse Kuntz.
And that's, again, we want to talk about football IQ and recognition. That's a great call. It's an easy completion, but you need your receiver to know the sticks. You need to know where they are. You got to get those sticks. And the Rifles do a good job of knowing where they are on the back end of their defense, making that a harder route. But still, they bailed. Make sure you're getting those 5 yards. Run the sticks so that when you fall forward, you're getting a sure first.
Riley Nyox back in the game for the Winnipeg Rifles as they scrimmage from their 43-yard line. 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Rifles are up 28-10. Riley under center, misses the handoff. Ball's on the ground.
Calgary jumped anyways. The big man.
Calgary maybe calling on offside here. Michael Richot is on the ground.
Not what you want to see if you're the Rifles staff. And exactly. You want to make sure that guy goes down. Make sure, take the breather, take the rest.
Absolutely.
Let's give our guys some chance to adjust. Let's make sure the quarterback gets a play. We can talk, calm everybody down.
I know, and sometimes as a player, you're a little bit prideful, thinking that you should try and get off the field to get off the field under your own power and show how tough you are, or to help your team because you think, get off the field and help the momentum. But coaches always want to, take some time to adjust their personnel and refocus their play calls if they're changing their personnel in a game.
Yeah, and it looks unfortunately like Rashad's limping pretty good here. Looks like it's an ankle that got rolled up. we'll try and keep you posted on that as we get news on it, if we get news on it. But that could be a big blow for the Rifles offense. Although, you know, when you're replacing him with a guy like Ogaden, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You got a guy that's very similar in running style right back there, so you don't have to change your offense up much.
So play action pass, Riley Noyox going deep over the middle, complete for a huge gain down to the Calgary 6.
That's a nice ball. You know, great patience in the pocket there from the rook. Standing in there, watching the route develop and putting the ball right on the money.
Noyox under center, hand off to Odin, makes the first guy miss, but too much penetration in the backfield by the Calgary Colts stops the Winnipeg Rifles for a loss on the play of about 1.
You know, you'd like to see these Rifles running backs. I mean, they're very explosive, but the one thing that I've kind of noticed today is that they don't really do much if there's contact made. They're not breaking a lot of tackles. There doesn't seem agility and speed they've got, but they don't have that power to break through tackles. And in this situation where you get into a little bit more of power football, you'd like to see these guys run a little bit harder, keep those legs churning.
Riley Noyox with the play action pass, complete to Xander Tuchitsky for the Winnipeg Rifles. Touchdown!
That was a great route by Xander. He turned his halfback just right around. You know, what can you say? You've got a rookie quarterback in there right now. He's now thrown for 2, ran for 1, looks unfazed by anything he's seen. He looks like he's been in the league for a couple years right now. You got to be real happy with this performance. I also imagine that it's going to give you something to think about as a Rifles coaching staff going into the bye week and into the toughest half of your schedule. He's got the team excited, that's for sure.
Objectionable conduct called on the Calgary Colts. It appears as though they're starting to lose control.
You know, this is typical of a young team. Emotions run high. You're on the road. You're tired.
Blocked by number 96, Jamin Pelly.
But a flag.
This man is a load.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Large athlete. Very agile for his size. There are flags on the play. It would appear that it should be offside on Calgary, and we'll have to re-kick this again. However, the referees are taking their sweet time deliberating.
You know, I feel like it's an extra point. If we give you a point for missing a field goal in the Canadian game, we should just give you a point for that. Why are we making them line up to kick it again?
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
So it's a wasted football play. I'm just saying, this is my, here we go.
Calgary's bench is now, looks like they've got an objectionable conduct. This should be applied against the kickoff. We should be still kicking from the 5-yard line.
I'd like to be a fly on a helmet down there right now because somebody is going off about something. I don't even know how he heard it that far away. I don't know who he heard. Did he hear the Calgary coach or did he hear a Calgary player? He's, you know, furthest guy away from everything through the flag.
It'll be interesting to hear what the call is. The refs are talking with Coach Snoop.
Oh, did they throw it? Did they throw it because he was on the field? Because I'll tell you, that's a two-way street, and that's pretty much like
Coach Snoop looks less than impressed with his hand, with his palms to the sky, saying, hey, what gives here? There has to be a little bit of leeway. I'm not down on the field, but I don't know that Calgary's bench has been all that loud, at least
Oh, my
yet.
goodness. If I was a spectator right now, I would be raging mad at the flow of this game on a one-point play. But I'm in the booth, so I'm only slightly raging. on how long it's taking to get 1 point on a gimme. I'd be far more intrigued if they were kicking from the 20 or something like that. Rifles are feeling good, though.
Absolutely.
We saw Coach Wilson bring them in after the Colts were taking those penalties, those bench minors and what have you, and you could tell that he was trying to tell them to calm it down, that the cheap stuff is going to come now. We've really opened it up, and I mean, this is what you want to see. This is the great second half. It's absolute dominance, and it's letting the Colts and the rest of the PFC know what the Rifles are going to be about this year. It's hard-fought football.
And I didn't make mention of it earlier, but the Rifles got the ball on a third down incomplete turnover on downs. And when it happened, I thought to myself, I get it. You're down by a couple of scores. You feel like your back's against the ropes, and you got to do something. You're moving the ball a little bit. Hopefully you can ride that momentum. But at the same time, the game's not over. You don't need to be pressing so hard to go for a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 4 on essentially at midfield. That turnover ended up turning into quick points the other way and just puts the Calgary Colts, behind the 8 ball even more, making this game a little bit more out of reach than it probably should be.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's hard to play football on the road to begin with. You're down 25 in roster size. You've traveled. You can use the fatigue and everything else as an excuse, but there needs to be discipline. And right now, I know Coach Snoop and his staff are probably fairly upset with the way that the team has been reacting.
And they may have even been doing this just to shake them up, just to get them to feel some emotion. Again, excellent special teams coverage by the Winnipeg Rifles have the Calgary Colts starting in the shadows of their own goalpost on the 2-yard line.
I can't imagine that he was told to take that out of the end zone. Maybe he was, but you had to know that if that ball got into the end zone, he should have been taking the field position. And it comes down to little things like that. Both teams are young, but you're starting to see maybe a little bit more of that veteran experience. The Rifles had 4 guys in with the Bombers this year. So they got a 5-year starting quarterback, or a 5-year part-time quarterback, and maybe that leadership and that experience is starting to really help them.
Calgary in a double tight end set, fakes the jet sweep and hand off to Dylan Minshaw up the middle for a quick first down.
This will linebacker for the Rifles, Dallas Cook, is quite physical. He brings the boom when he makes contact. He's been all over the field tonight.
And one thing I will credit the Winnipeg Rifles defense with right now is they haven't given up very many big plays. Often when you talk to a coach, will say, can you stop the big plays from happening? And just as I say it, a 40-yard completion through the air, I jinxed him.
Your dad's a goalie coach, and you're probably the guy that's being like, shut out all the time. Come on, man, your father-in-law, I mean. At the end of the day, you put that out there, and look at what happens.
It's true.
We're supposed to be homers here.
But you gotta give Calgary credit, at least their offense anyway, for giving some fight, because Dylan Minshaw running with the football here goes for the Nick Lewis hurdle. I think he's been watching too much CFL lately, but does it with great success and moves the chains for a 20-yard first down.
The difference is Nick Lewis has probably 60 pounds on him and actually clears the guy. But still, impressive run and 2 back-to-back big plays. And you know what? This is probably a decision. Calm down your guys, dial them back in, refocus them. You've seen 2 big back-to-back plays, and there's still a lot of game left here. If Calgary can start, convert here, start to get a little bit more confidence back, and the way their quarterback's been playing all game, and with their run game continuing to develop and starting to get bigger chunks of yards, the Rifles need to calm down, pump the brakes, right? Keep it in front of you. Don't bite on any of that stuff. We got a big lead. Let's play to protect this lead.
And when I'm looking at the stats here, Calgary's done a phenomenal job offensively. completing a good variety of footballs, running the ball with success, and conversely, the Rifles have had a good day on offense, but when you look at the stat sheet and you just look at the pure stats, you think, how are the Rifles up by 25 points right now?
Special teams? But the other fact is that the Rifles haven't thrown many balls, but almost everything they've thrown has been completed, and a few of them have been completed in the end zone. And that's been the biggest difference. The big plays.
Absolutely. Big plays and turnovers at this point in time are the tail of the tape. That and strong special team play by the Winnipeg Rifles. Dylan Minshaw with another sizable chunk up the middle as he keeps his feet moving and carries tacklers down the field.
There.
Calgary, 2nd and 3 or 4. Throws the slant.
That's a great route. I'm not sure what the Sam linebacker was supposed to be doing out there, but he flew to number 2 down into the flat, what he thought was number 2, but it ended up being right in behind him. He
Just
probably needed to keep his eyes there.
The zone.
It was he flew, didn't look anywhere else.
Calgary, play action pass. Ball's out to the flats. Poorly thrown ball. Looked like it was into what would have been good coverage from the Winnipeg Rifles in the flats down at about the 10-yard line.
Yeah, it seems like he's got a little bit, most quarterbacks do a little bit more of a challenge throwing to the strong side of the field. He's trying to cover a little bit more ground with that, but I guess he put it in a place that nobody could catch it, so that was maybe the one positive about it, because the Rifles didn't have a play on that ball either.
So Calgary with 3 receivers to the right, 2 to the left. Back to pass. Checks down to the man on the shallow crossing. Underneath, evades 1 tackle, loses the football as he goes out of bounds. Looks like he had first down yardage, and he's down to the 1.
Yeah, and so again, really unique what they're doing. It's a great adjustment by the Colts, actually. They're starting to figure out the coverage that the Rifles are liking to play, and they're just being a little bit more patient. They're short yardage, but they're letting the zone develop and hitting them underneath, and as these guys carry men across their zone, they're hitting the guy that's coming back the other way real quick for a nice big gain.
Calgary with a great drive here in the latter stages of the third quarter. Toss to the left, Dylan Minshaw, ball's on the ground. Looks like it was recovered by Calgary, but it's tough to tell.
Just as I say, they're doing a great job making some adjustments. They ran a toss inside the 5. I don't like that play call myself, especially when your running back is as physical as he is. Give him the ball, let him get north-south, and drop his shoulders. He's good. He's probably going to fall forward for 2 or 3 yards. Now you've lost yourself yards here. You're on the 3.
So Calgary, 2nd and goal on the 3-yard line.
Well, this is 3 downs now. We know that. They're
Absolutely.
We're going to see 3-down football probably.
They have their
Calgary
jumbo package in.
His fullback has a big bottom.
Looks like it's procedure on Calgary. Plays blown dead. Another mistake pushes Calgary back 5 yards. Should be 2nd and goal from the 8.
Well, they bring in Jamin Pelly on this, and Pete Schwartz as well. They go big. That is a big package. And the Rifles are a well-conditioned football team. They're physical. They're strong. But they definitely don't have the size that they were facing across that line there to be able to counterpunch that.
And sometimes in those goal line scenarios, when you're in the trenches, it is a lot about just the pure mass that you have.
There was probably a couple tons on that line there.
Absolutely.
Like, there's some big boys. I don't know what's in the water out west, but pass me some.
So this has definitely been a good answer drive by the Calgary Colts here. 2 minutes left in the third quarter with the Winnipeg Rifles up 35-10 over the visiting Calgary Colts.
You need to get in here. You need to score. it's great to have this confidence offensively that you're building and you're building and you're building, but you need to convert. It's all for nothing if you don't get in now.
Calgary under center. Balls to Dylan Minshaw, who's down at the 1. They haven't marked him in.
I thought he fell in, but his knee must have been down.
It looked like he fell in, at least from my vantage point. However, the officials have not signaled a touchdown. So
You know, they weren't that quick to run in from the sidelines either. They kind of kept their distance out there and just, yeah, we're good. I don't know. It looked to me like he fell in.
So here's Calgary on a 3rd and goal. Definitely a pivotal play in their game here. Hopefully that they can score here, and they do. Calgary scores a touchdown to go up, to make the score 35-16, at least for the time being.
Was it just me, or did that look like a bit of a sloppy offensive play, though? Both backs left way too early. It looked like they weren't sure what direction they were supposed to be going.
Quarterback didn't get great push either. Yeah,
it almost like it. I mean, it worked out.
If he did.
It worked out, but well, for the size of that line, there wasn't really a ton of push up there either. I mean, good on the Winnipeg Rifles. They've been training hard all year, in the gym, working with Coach Marsh and other trainers. You know, it's starting to show when you can handle a big front like that. Going for 2.
Quarterback in the shotgun, back to pass, steps and throws that same slant that he's starting to get very comfortable throwing, and a 2-point conversion by number 82, Brandon McIsaac.
You can't get your face crossed there. I don't know if he thought he had safety help there or not, but when they trips over, that safety's cheating over to the trip side, so the 3 receiver side. And you'd got to know if you're on the 2-man side, you're probably if it's a deep route, you're going to have a safety help. But if it's a short route, you need to be protecting that, because the safety, that inside, because that safety is not going to be able to come over fast enough to close on that football. You don't have any help. I think that was, I'm not sure, but I think that was John Bennett that got beat on that. That's a young, we were talking about a 19-year-old football player here, young guy, oodles of potential. That stuff's going to happen, and having coached the kid, I know that it's not going to have an effect on him. Just like most DBs, when that type of stuff happens, you got to turn the page.
The Rifles here are 15 yards back. I'm not sure if.
Well, we've seen them overload one side. They didn't get their hands team on.
That was a poorly kicked onside kick. It ended up traveling 20 yards in the air. The Rifles were not prepared for that. They were 15 yards off the ball. So if Calgary actually puts that in a good spot, 10 yards from the ball, they probably get that. That's just a little bit of sloppy football on both sides of the ball.
In this instance, yes, on both sides of the ball. But you need to know, take a time out there. If your guys are panicked and you're not lined up right, take a time out. You can't give them the football there.
Jonathan Rempel in the backfield, handoff to Odin Ogaden for a short gain as he's bottled up by the Twins.
And then again, as we've talked about, and I know, when you're competing against probably 700 pounds of man, that's hard, but you need to find a way to break through on that. You need to find a way to keep your legs going. We aren't seeing the Rifles running backs break anything for extra yards. Anything that they're doing untouched for big plays.
So the Rifles, 2nd and 8. Jonathan Rempel rolls out, makes the first guy miss. Throws the ball deep and out of bounds.
So I'm not sure what your thoughts would be on that. I actually like that
he can make guys miss in the open field, and that's, the type of play that he can expect himself to make.
Not a great punt.
Rifles punt, a short punt. Looks like there's a no yards being called.
And that'll be tacked on at the end of the return. So that's a nice return. He didn't catch that in the air though, so that's a positive.
So Calgary starting to assert some momentum.
Xander's pointing to it being on them. I don't understand. That looked like it was no yards to me all the way. Oh, they're saying, oh, okay. They're saying it's both ways, I guess.
So offsetting penalties. So it looks like we'll go back to where the ball was fielded.
But the Rifles only got dinged for a 5-yard no yards, and it looks like the Colts got dinged for a UR. And again, you know, you have an opportunity there to have great field position coming off your best offensive drive of the day, and you go and take a bad penalty like that. That's just, you know, it's infuriating. And as a coach, especially when you're on the road, you're a little bit more handcuffed because you're limited to the guys that you have to replace that guy. So even the ability to discipline the poor decision is challenging.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, especially when the Calgary Colts have started to play a little bit better, a little bit more consistent offensively, especially with that long drive. The last time they had the ball, they were able to punch it in and score a converted touchdown to narrow the gap to 35-18 at the end of the third quarter.
I like watching this Minshaw run. Boy, is he physical.
Yeah, and these junior football players are excellent athletes. The Winnipeg Rifles and the Calgary Colts are proud members of the Canadian Junior Football League. The CJFL gives young men aged 17 to 22 the opportunity to grow in football and become a valuable contributor in the community. Visit cjfl.org for updates and information, and follow on Instagram at CJFL Football.
I think we can both testify to the fact that this league afforded us the opportunity to play with some against some amazing athletes, with some amazing athletes. You made great friends that have lasted a lifetime, and it gives you a unique football experience, especially now with the crossover games that are happening. It's really it's the PFC conference, but it's becoming much more of a Canadian-wide league, and that's kind of neat to see.
And for those of you who don't know, the Canadian Junior Football League is a 3-conference league playing in one conference in BC. Then there's a Prairie conference and also an Ontario conference. So these teams will have their own conference playdowns to name their own conference champions, then play an inter-gold game with that winner going on to the host conference to play for the CJFL Championship, otherwise known as the Canadian Bowl.
Yeah, and you were a quarterback for the Winnipeg Rifles team that has the lone winning season record of 7-1. You know, went on to win the Wally Bono Award, went on to go and join the U of M Bisons. You ended up starting for the Bisons for a season. I mean, all that stems from the opportunity that the junior football experience provided you.
Absolutely. Without junior football, I wouldn't be where I am today. That's for sure. It gives me the confidence to, to go and do the things that I do on a regular basis. Hard work and effort and sticking to a plan, sacrificing short-term fun for long-term gains are all the type of valuable experiences that I learned while I was playing junior football.
Yeah, and how to communicate, the ability to network. I mean, you're going to know your ability to play with some of these guys for 5 to 10 years, depending on what you guys do. Well, even longer if you played high school together. So the friendships that you forge on a football team, because it is the best team sport out there. No other sport can offer that. So, really, if you guys are football fans, if your kids are football fans, this is a league to be watching. It turns out tons of talent, tons of CFL talent, tons of CIS talent. It's a great opportunity to ball.
Calgary scrimmaging from their 35-yard line. Samson Abbott in the backfield.
I'll say this about Samson Abbott. He's really good when he goes unblocked.
Absolutely.
He's made 2 plays today. Both of them came with nobody touching him. The guy is an absolute specimen. You look at him, he screams football player from a physique. He's athletic, but one of the knocks on him is he can play a little soft.
Calgary back to pass, throwing off his back foot. Complete to number 15, Tarek Anderson, who gets absolutely lit up
by Andrew Ricard. My boy. I am a big fan of this cat. I mean, he's maybe this is foolish. Yes. Looks like
he was a little bit hyped up from the hit.
He's a little taunting there, and that'll probably get him a little bit of a tongue lashing. But the reality is this kid's from Elmwood High School, played Division 3 or AAA ball here in Winnipeg. When he played in high school, he was a receiver, he was a running back, he was a punt returner, he was a linebacker. Came to the Rifles as a linebacker, worked just because he's a great athlete and hungry for and loves football, worked his way onto a special teams role. Through that role, he's transitioned it into now going to camp with the Bombers and one of the best defensive backs in the PFC as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's the type of guy who's got a high motor, lots of energy. He's a type of guy that you want on your team because he's always, what type of consistent effort you're going to get from him on play to play.
But every once in a while, just like most young men, they're going to do something foolish that'll let you down. But he'll make up for it in spades.
Absolutely, and this is all part of the process, learning how to control your emotions, and he's learning that fine line of you got to ride that wave of positive emotion too, because you got to use that to propel you to do better things as well. Calgary looking for the crosser. Winnipeg Rifles sniff that play out on both sides. They have double crossers. They have an over and an under. Both of those, I think the Rifles are starting to pick up on
nothing there. There was nothing. They took it all the way. Great coverage in the back end. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is a little bit more pressure on the front because the quarterback still got that ball off and he held on to it for a while. Some of those routes take a long time to develop. So great protection by the Colts O-line, but the defensive line for the Rifles needs to get after it a little bit more here.
Calgary back to pass, throwing the ball complete to number 82 in the zone, Brandon McIsaac, who's becoming one of Bailey Wasdale's favorite targets here in the second half of this game.
What I've been really impressed about with him is his ability to sit down in the zone, find the soft spot, and go up and be aggressive to high point that ball, come down with it every time.
He's a strong receiver. He's got good hands, knows football obviously, as he's able to find those soft spots in the rifle zone. Wasdale with a counter boot and the completed pass to Bennett Thompson out in the flats for an 8-yard gain on first down.
Like that's a hard ball to complete. That's throwing it out to the strong side of the field is challenging. That was an absolute dart. If he can get that type of heat on some of those deep balls, and he's a young quarterback, there's tons of potential there. He could do some really special things in this league.
Absolutely. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Again, Bailey Wasdale puts his foot in the ground and throws a strike out to the flats for another first down.
But again, one of the key issues I have with their screen game, particularly when it's not out of the backfield, but their wide receiver and slot back screens, is they aren't getting the blocking required to set that up. It's a timing thing, but you need to just man up, get in front of your guy and block him. You're a receiver, but you need to spring your guy there. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Play action pass out to the flats again. Complete to number 19, Jesse Kuntz.
That was a beautiful ball again. I mean, he's really starting to maybe get more comfortable. Maybe this is a game where he's coming into his element. They are slinging the pill, partly because of the score, of course. But they still threw the ball 21 times in the first half.
And they're on pace to do at least that in the second.
Yeah, but he gets better. You can just see he's getting better and better and better, more confident. That ball is just coming out of his hand like a rocket now. This quick strike attack is where it's at for them, too. Again,
Brandon McIsaac finds a soft spot on that slant play right behind the Sam linebacker.
See, what the Rifles are doing is they flail out their number 3, and the Sam ends up going out, and they bring in number 2 right in behind him. And what you need to be doing there is realizing that flat play isn't going to kill you. Goal line situation might be a little bit different, but even still, that flat play isn't going to kill you. It's going to afford you. You're going to be able to come up on that ball. It's what's
Absolutely.
in behind you that hurts you.
You have to rally to the flats, and that's fine. You give up those completions to the flats because you know
I'll let you chip away at that all day.
And that's taking the page out of the Saskatoon Hilltops playbook. You know, they're comfortable playing cover 3 and letting you hit those outs or the hitches on the sidelines. They don't care. They know it's not going to kill them.
Nice catch.
Great catch. Great throw.
Great ball. Great football
Touchdown
play.
by the Calgary Colts. Completion by Bailey Wasdale to Jesse Kuntz. Flag on the play, however.
I think the Rifles jumped there. I think they were eager to get after the quarterback. I think that's going to count. And I think we have ourselves a football game here again. That's going to put them back.
Absolutely. So Calgary showing a little bit of gumption here, making the score 35-24. I would assume that Calgary is going to try and go for the 2-pointer.
I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to short kick again.
You know what? They're just going to go for a 1-point conversion here, make it a 10-point ball game.
2-score.
Great decision.
2-score game, it wouldn't really make a difference. At least it allows you the time to tie it up, I guess. I'm sure the analytics behind it tell you to kick there too.
Yeah, if Trevor Mon's out there, he would have been disagreeing with me, telling him to go for 2. But I was just feeling like, you know, Calgary's feeling it right now, and they can put themselves in a position to maybe win the ball game if they score another touchdown in a field goal.
Trevor Mon's also a Browns fan and the commissioner of our fantasy football league.
Shout out to the 103-265 fantasy football league.
Hey boys,
what's happening? You guys all know that I got the best team, One Warrior Nation.
Yeah, Big Daddy Kunk is gonna lay it down this year. First time, 2-time champ. That's what's happening. I'm telling you, boys. If you're listening, if you're tuning in, I'm coming for each and every one of you. That diss rap got me fired up.
There's only one reason why you got a diss rap.
Because I'm the champ.
No, because you're a cheetah. And now it's all on air for everybody to hear. You brought it there, Big Daddy.
I did bring it there. Listen, you guys know I live in the gray area. Such is life.
Yeah, he's like a snake in the weeds.
That's right.
Calgary with another short kick, traveling about 20 yards. Oh,
Ooh,
poorly
fumbled that
fielded.
one.
And the Rifles managed to get onto it at their 37-yard line, where they'll scrimmage with 9:46 left in the fourth quarter.
I just kind of question personnel on that. I'm looking at number 31 here for the Colts. Kian Van Wyn, who says he's a running back, but he runs like he's a fullback. When you're trying to get that ball, you need speedsters out there. You want some guys that are going to be able to be physical and take on some of those blockers, but you need guys that can high point that ball and get 10 yards coverage very quick. They just didn't have the right there.
Riley Nyox in the backfield, hands off to Michael Rashad, who makes a guy miss and managed to get a sizable chunk of about 8 or 9 yards to set the Rifles up with a short second down.
And it's nice to see him back in the game after him limping off the field. You know, good to see him back in good health. That's key for the Rifles here. Now, obviously, I think their plan is going to be to try and run this clock down, take as much clock as they can off, and protect this 10-point lead here using the best running back in the PFC.
Absolutely. The Winnipeg Rifles are going to want to use that running game to help bleed this clock out. They're still in great position, being up 10 points with about 8:50 left in the game. Michael Rashad with a first down after a short 2-yard gain.
I'll tell you though, when you try and cut back into those big boys on the inside, you're not going to get very far. It's a good hard run. I mean, that's what they needed. Keep the chains moving.
So 1st and 10 for the Winnipeg Rifles on their 48-yard line. 2 receivers to the right, 2 receivers to the left. Quarterback's under center. Plays blown back in after a brief stoppage. Play action boot. Riley Nayox with a pass that's behind fullback Brendan Gilroy.
I gotta be honest, I thought he was
Looked like he
alligator.
probably had it.
It looked like he was alligator arming that one.
I say it's behind him, but it looked like it was a catchable ball.
I felt like it was catchable. I was actually surprised to see them use Riley on the. I didn't realize he was that athletic to be able to get the edge. Good on him. That's something new that I learned about him. But the ball I thought was placed fine. I don't know who taught him to catch a football, but they need to work on that.
So the Rifles with a 2nd and 10 from their own 48. Riley Nayox back to pass. Down. Ball looked like it was tipped at the line of scrimmage.
It looked like it was tipped. Again, my issue here is, it's a quick step drop, and when they seem to rush it, he didn't set his feet as much, which probably caused him to release the ball that low. I think if they allowed him to settle in, maybe run something he's a little bit more comfortable with. It doesn't look like he's as comfortable under center in those 3-step drop situations, and he can't see get him deeper in the pocket, let him see that route develop, and let him get it over top of the O-lineman.
Being the armchair quarterback that I am, I was looking for a draw or a screen on that play call, to be honest with you. Looking at a young quarterback who would look at that particular play being a 2nd and long scenario, being a little bit of a daunting down for him, having to convert that passing the ball downfield. I think it would have been wise to set up a counter punch play, especially knowing that Calgary's defense is pinning their ears back.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Play call there was maybe something that they were a little bit more comfortable with, but like you said, a screen or a draw is putting that in your best player's hands. So I'm far more comfortable in any game trying to give my best player as many touches as we possibly can.
Calgary with quads to the field. Dylan Minshaw with the carry with a big chunk.
Calgary's coming on strong here. And he is just heating up. There was a big hole there. I don't know if a linebacker just got sealed or I didn't see, but he just hit that hole and there was nobody there coming down for the fill. Maybe they bought into the misdirection and overcommitted.
Screen out to the wide side of the field. Ball's complete to number 85, Nathan Hillier, who managed to squirm his way for another Calgary Colts first down. Calgary's really putting the pressure on here with 6:15 left.
I think
in
they
the fourth quarter.
marked him short.
Oh, they did mark him a yard short. So this should be a 2nd and short for the Calgary Colts.
Again, they keep going to these screens. I think if there's one thing they're going to need to work on in practice, having your Rex block a little bit better. I mean, that guy made that happen with a nice spin move.
Calgary hands the ball off to Dylan Minshaw. Oh, play action pass. Ball going downfield to number 19.
They got him with the out and up, man.
To Jesse Kuntz with the out and up. Ball hung up in the air for what seemed like an eternity. However, Winnipeg Rifles DBs weren't able to get around the back of Jesse Kuntz.
And that's a route that they haven't seen much this game. So what happened is number 33 Wood came up there, bit on that out, thinking that that's what was going to happen. And the moment he broke down, he turned it up. And that's a better ball. There's more yards. They left yards on the field there.
And Calgary hands the ball off again to Dylan Minshaw. This time gets caught by a Winnipeg defensive lineman playing catcher. Samson Harper with the tackle. Second and 8 for the Calgary Colts on the Winnipeg 29. 4:43 left in the game. Winnipeg Rifles up 35-25 over the Calgary Colts. Play action pass. Calgary rolls out to the right, and he is sacked.
Coach Wilson touched on this earlier, but the more I'm watching this game, the more I'm seeing it's no joke. Most of these sacks are created by the back end of this defense right now. The coverage, for the most part, without a few gaffes here and there, has been phenomenal. And that's making the quarterback hold the ball longer, which obviously allows you more time to get to him.
Calgary, 3rd and 14. Hayden Ellis with the pressure. Flags in the backfield. Ball is almost picked off by Winnipeg Rifles, but falls incomplete on 3rd down. This looks like it's a turnover on downs. Probably would have been smart for him to drop it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think that
better field position
if he had. However, that play was aided by a hungry Winnipeg Rifles D-line.
Yeah, they got after it there.
The ball gets turned over with 3:43 left in the 4th quarter with the Winnipeg Rifles up 35-25. I have to say that this game has turned into a much more entertaining affair than I thought it might when we turned the corner coming into the 4th.
Yeah, and it's not over yet. There's a lot of things that can happen, and it is the Canadian game, so the way the clock works. But
Michael Ree's shot making people miss, gets outside.
That was one thing you couldn't have happen. You had that bottled up at the line of scrimmage, and he manages to gain you 12.
Now, you talked about earlier about the Winnipeg Rifles running backs, lack of ability to make people miss. That sure looked like Michael Rashad was making somebody miss on that play.
That's true. Good on him. One time. We could all look at the one time. I want to see consistency in that department, though. And it's great that you have all this flash, but the reality is when you're playing the top teams in this conference, you need to be able to break those tackles.
Pulls the ball, running the ball downfield with a great gain of 20 yards. That's a type of play that when I was playing, that was my bread and butter. I was a running quarterback, and I loved that stuff. I loved it when they gave me that option to go make somebody miss when D linemen got real hungry. And I love to be able to run on those guys and be that dual threat athlete.
Well, what we're starting to see right now from the Winnipeg Rifles with this dual quarterback system is you're essentially seeing two different playbooks. You're seeing what they can do with one guy, which is a lot more with their legs, and you're seeing what they can do with another guy, which is going to be more focused on what he can do through the air. I mean, the running game is the running game. They've got some of the best backs in the league. But what Rempel affords you is a third running back on the field, and how to account for that is challenging.
Absolutely, and when he's making smart decisions, pulls the ball again there and decides to go downfield. I think he had the opportunity to pitch that one out to Michael Rashad, who might still be running if he had.
Yeah, there's still a flag on the play, and I think this one's going to be against Calgary again. Looks like for a face mask. So, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I guess they're going to end up in a positive situation here anyways. I don't even know where the face mask happened because it happened. It must have been illegal hands to the face because a flag was thrown from the back judge here, and the tackle was made not even close to him.
Winnipeg Rifles scrimmaging 1st and 10 on the Calgary 26-yard line. Hand off to Michael Rashad, who again, lots of speed to the outside, ends up getting out of bounds for about a 9-yard gain. Again, fabric on the field, another flag, surprise.
I think you're going to see this one come back on the Rifles. I think you're going to see it as a hold on the wide receiver out there on the corner. I think he got his outside shoulder with his hand. So one place you don't want to put your shoulders, right? You want to have those hands on the inside so that you can limit the visibility of where you're putting them. Once they get on that outside shoulder and you have to grab jersey, you're making it a no-brain call for the officials. And they don't have a problem throwing flags. So why make it any easier for these guys?
So the clock stops with the penalty, obviously, and Michael Rashad running out of bounds. So the Rifles are 1st and 20 now from the Calgary 36. Jonathan makes somebody miss, gets edge.
So I don't know if you saw the explosion from Jamin Pelly there, but he absolutely blew up the center for the Winnipeg Rifles, Brody Jones. And, you know, Rempel being the athlete that he is, he doesn't get full marks for the play because if he'd have finished it, it would have been unbelievable. But you can best believe that they're going to post that up in both film rooms, and one coach is going to be like, why can't you do this every play? And the other coach is going to say, you can never let this happen to you again. He got blown up like 4 yards into the backfield.
Odin Ogden with the carry. Gets the ball back down to the Calgary 25-yard line with 2:19 left. This looks like a situation where Winnipeg will probably call out the field goal unit.
Well, I'm hearing punt calls from up here, so I guess that tells you what Winnipeg thinks about their field goal kicker, unless he got injured today or something. But this seems like a makeable field goal. You're looking at 32 yards.
Absolutely. This is a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, I get if they want to try and coffin corner this kick and keep them pinned in, but in my opinion, going up by 13 is better than being up by 12, because now the 2-score game is a 2-touchdown game, not a touchdown and a field goal.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, if it was me and I was the special teams coordinator, I'd be telling my head coach, listen, I'm just going to tell my guy that regardless, kick it as hard as you can so it goes through the end zone at least and you can net a single. Like,
yeah, exactly. Go up by 11.
yeah.
And then again, you're augmenting.
I guess they're
that
viewing that if they
game.
punt it deep enough in the end zone, they're going to get that single anyways. But to me, a punt just seems like a lot more can go wrong than on a field goal. The snap is harder on a punt. You can bring pressure differently on a punt than you can because of the alignment. So, although I think they're probably thinking the same thing, that, you know, we need to get one here, and if we get one, that's a very comforting 1 point. I just think you're leaving yourself open for a lot more mishaps on this type of play than if it was a field goal.
And maybe they just like their coverage unit better.
Yep.
But definitely an interesting play call, to say the least. And Calgary did bring the house there, and looks like Winnipeg might get bailed out with a contacting the kicker penalty.
I tell you, I love watching Brendan Nyox play special teams. He goes so hard, relentless, breaks down perfectly, and standardly finishes too. I haven't seen a guy be able to run with him or block him yet today. No, I mean, the Colts can be as upset as they want, but it was embellished, but there was contact. But yeah, that's what a kicker's supposed to do. I mean, drama that up for me a little bit. Give me that suspense of, are you hurt? Grab your knee or your ankle. Roll around like you've been shot. Like, what do you expect?
It's no different than a D lineman pointing to an O lineman on an offside call.
100%.
You got to sell the call if you want them to make it. Michael Rashad with the ball, zone to the right with a sizable gain.
Yet another flag. We see a hold on the Rifles here. It's going to come back 10. So they're going to be back in the position they were originally, where they're not going to be able to kick a field goal by the looks of it, unless they can gain some major yards.
But what they are doing on each and every down
Churning
is
clock,
slowly
baby.
churning the clock.
You got to like that, right? Watch those seconds drip away.
The Rifles being up right now 35-25 with 2 minutes and 6 seconds left in the fourth quarter in CJFL action on this Saturday night here in Winnipeg. It's been a beautiful night.
Oh,
not a lot of
perfect
wind.
night.
Great football night in early September. Jonathan Rempel with the snap. Fakes the handoff to Odin Ogden on the jet sweep. Keeps the ball for himself with a short gain and keeps it for a short gain.
I got to say that one of the things that drives me nuts about this jet sweep is it seems like timing is really challenging for the Rifles with it. This it's number 24. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, who's coming across on this jet sweep motion most of the time, and it seems like he's just not. When you're hitting that quarterback and going to be taking off that handoff, I want to see you at your absolute max speed taking that handoff. That's the only way the motion works to get edge. That was a hard one. Yeah, they got to flag it. I mean, it looks worse than it was, but he was trying to let up. He was coming downhill already. I think there was contact there regardless.
I think Jonathan Rempel might have been a WWE wrestler in another life. The way that he sold that one, like he got hit with a steel chair.
It looks
flailing.
good. Hey, look at what he did to that board. I wonder how that felt. I'm going to ask him after the game. Hey, Johnny, that was probably the hardest he's been hit all game.
Yeah.
And he did it to himself. Yeah, I think he's down, actually. Is that
No,
him?
Jonathan Rempel's up. He's in the
So
offensive
who is
backfield
down
right now.
then?
I don't know who's down, but
Could it?
I feel like it could look like it might be Xander Tuchinski.
And they're working that lower part of his body. That would be a big blow to almost the non-existent passing game of the Rifles. But why do you need to pass the ball when you got a running game like they do?
That is true. And looks like Calgary self-imploded there. They're down. They gave the Rifles some free yards, and the Rifles look like they will scrimmage first and goal from the Calgary 1-yard line when play does get blown in.
Yeah, you always feel for a guy. It doesn't matter what jersey he's in. When they go down, you hope it's nothing serious. But when you know the type of guy that Xander Tuchinski is, what he's been able to do in the last year in his football career, and what he's been able to do for the Rifles program, being one of their more veteran players, and the leadership that he brings and the respect that he carries in the locker room, you got to hope that this is nothing serious.
Absolutely, he's definitely one of the glue guys on the Rifles football team. He's a guy who, when he started with the club, we were actually coaching the Rifles at the time, and he came in as a quarterback. And I remember watching him throw. I was a quarterback coach at the time, and I said, I really like you, but I don't see a future for you as a quarterback. And I quickly moved him during winter workouts into the receiving corps. And he's the type of guy, because I knew his old coach from St. Paul's, Eugene Pacheco, and he told me he's a really good kid. So I knew that he would take coaching well, and I knew that he would give it his all in order to become a good wide receiver. And he's parlayed that into quite the junior football career, getting himself an invite to Bomber Camp last year. He's the type of guy that works really hard and a model Winnipeg Rifle.
So yeah, he's being helped off the field right now by some teammates, and play is about to go back and will be whistled back in.
Minute and 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter here in CJFL action. Jonathan Rempel under center. First and goal from the Calgary 1. Oh, John tries to go.
I don't think he went the right way. That didn't look like he went the right way.
But it was closed quickly.
Look at that. Rashad saying he wants the ball right now, slapping his chest. Can't say that I'd argue with the man, but they're bringing in the rook, Riley Nyox, who recently plunged for 1-yard touchdown. Let's see if he gets two on the ground and 2 in the air. That'll put you on the map.
That'd be quite the night for this rook.
Ooh.
Oh, looks like there's a little bit of procedure. Just going to push him back here.
And I appreciate Rashad's frustrated right now. I understand that. You feel you've earned the ball in this situation, but the reality is this is a team game. You don't need to throw a hissy fit when your quarterback is getting given the ball. He's just running the play that's called. Let's see what happens now. Maybe they give him the ball now that he's throwing 2 minor tantrums on the field. But you'd like to see, for a guy that's been around and a veteran like that, you'd like to see a little bit of a different leadership from him. Yeah, I want you to want the ball, but I don't need you to display it in that manner.
I completely agree. This is the type of, especially at the time of the game, with 1:30 left, being up by 10 points, you don't need to be thumping your chest saying, give me the ball. Like, yeah, this is going to finish the game, and that was an outstanding run by Michael Rashad. You can tell that he was pumped up and maybe that's why he should have gotten the ball.
That's his best. That's his most physical run today. I won't say it's his best, but it was easily his most physical run today. And I'm just wondering where that was the rest of the game, because to me, if you can run that physical, most of the yards he gained were, well, on one big play, and then the remainder of them were generally, 10, 20-yard gains. He was not able to break first contact, and on there, he broke 4 tackles. If you can do that there when you're on the goal line, because you can smell the end zone, you should be able to do that the rest of the 100 yards down the field.
I love the attitude to shut the door on the game and to put the final nail in the coffin. But again, I'd like to reiterate what you said. It just would have been nice to see that type of attitude and effort throughout the entire game. Definitely a talented individual, and the Rifles probably should have given him the ball on that play, but maybe he didn't have to tell him to do it.
Yeah, or you know what? Like, come to me after the game is over and we can talk about it as men, but you don't throw a hissy fit on the field. You don't, and the other part of this is, I look back to, you can say what you want, when the Seahawks didn't give Lynch the ball on the goal line, everybody says they should have. They complete that pass, everybody's saying it different. It didn't work out. You're a Pats fan. You guys celebrate another Super Bowl. But, you don't see Marshawn out there slapping his chest, or Marshawn after the game really saying much other than, I don't know, which is fine. I understand. Why wouldn't they give you the ball? But he's not making it a bigger deal out of it, because it's bigger than he is. And that's what football's about. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than your individual stats. It's bigger than how many touchdowns you have. It's bigger than how many yards you have. It's really all about the outcome of the football game, which today is a W. You should be celebrating that. You should be happy about that. And the Rifles worked hard for this W. They prepped hard all week. They were happy with their week of practice. Up front, they were a little bit concerned, but they held their own. And when you're as young as they are up front as an offensive line, that's got to give you a lot of confidence, because now the Rifles and the Colts are both going into their bye week. They're going to be able to get healthy. But the Rifles have a very challenging end of the year. They're on the road 2 more times, I believe.
Yep, they're on the road 2 more times, and then they finish the season.
And they play the top half of the schedule the remainder of the season. So, now that they've established that they belong, and they're one of the top teams in Canada right now. They're ranked number 8 of the top 10. That's awesome. That's great to see. But now that they're 3-1 and they're going into the back half of the schedule against the 3 big dogs, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. If they can keep this going, do they keep riding the rookie quarterback? Do they keep going with the dual system? They've got a lot of swagger right now, but they haven't played the top tier yet either. So I think you need to be happy with where you're at, but you need to, as a coaching staff, you need to be monitoring your team and making sure that they're not getting too far ahead of themselves and thinking that they're that good. Yeah, you're 3-1 now, but you can be 3-2 and 3-3 real quick, and another team can go the other way, right? So there's so little wiggle room in the PFC when you're one of those middle conference teams. You standardly know where the Hilltops are going to finish every year. You standardly know where Regina is going to finish every year, and generally speaking, after that, it's going to get very competitive. The Rifles need to keep the foot on the gas coming out of the bye week, stay hungry, stay focused, and realize that the biggest challenge they have lies ahead.
Absolutely. Looking at the next 4 games, they have games against Saskatoon, Edmonton, Regina, who, like you had mentioned, going into action this weekend are 3-0, 3-0, and 2-1 respectively. They're facing a tough back end of the schedule. Going into the bye week 3-1 will leave a lot of confidence in this group, knowing that they have 2 weeks to prepare for their next opponent. This game looks to me like it's getting a little bit of a chippy affair, with a couple of URs and objectionable conducts. Have the Rifles kicking the football off at the Calgary 40.
I've had the privilege of being flagged by number 58 out there, and I can tell you, he does not really listen much. You start talking, he'll pretty much tell you to keep quiet. And then if you keep talking, you're going to get a flag. So it doesn't necessarily take much with that specific individual.
The Rifles kick off, kind of a moonshot 10 yards into the end zone, and Calgary's lucky to get it out.
Again,
Tackled at the 2-yard line.
I just don't understand that. I have a hard time understanding why you're trying to take it out there. Take the field position, especially right now. Like, why set your offense up in your own end with 1:24 left? Why not give them a little bit of breathing room and let them try and establish something, finish on a high note?
So Calgary scrimmages from their own 3-yard line with 1:24 left. Winnipeg Rifles over the Calgary Colts 42-25. Calgary back to pass. Catch, step, throw. Complete to number 82, Brandon McIsaac. Brandon McIsaac having himself a great second half here. And you do have to credit the Calgary Colts for coming back in this game. At one point, they were down 25 points. They made it close, came within 10. Now they trail by 17. However, you got to give their young guys a little bit of credit for having a lot of fight and putting together a number of very long drives here in the second half.
Yeah, you know what? You got to tip your cap to the Colts. They didn't quit. They hung tough all game. The effort's been there. You saw a little bit of lack of discipline, which is common in a young team. You also need to tip your hat to the Rifles. I thought they did. They came out really at the start of the game. They stuck with their game plan. They knew what they wanted to do. They weren't necessarily having a ton of success with it, but they just kept hanging in there, kept going back to certain things that were there, and they just needed a missed tackle or a broken tackle for a big gain. The other thing that we need to tip our cap to is, Coach Wilson has already exceeded his win total this year to last year. So the Rifles are going to be 3-1, and last year they finished the season with a 2 wins on their record. So already you're starting to see improvement from year 1 to year 2 under his tenure. That's got to be something that he's got to be very happy about, that his coaching staff needs to be very happy about, and that the players that have bought into his culture have to be happy about. They're starting to see maybe a changing of the guard.
Yeah, and I think that when he took over, he was talking a lot about a culture change, and I think anytime that there's a coaching staff, that's something that floats around the coaching room, that there needs to be a culture change, because of course there's a reason that he was brought in. And it's not to say that the old staff did a poor job. It's just to say that he wants to reset the culture in his mind, the way that he sees a football team should be run.
Well, and it's funny. I know some people in the football community that get upset when they hear the word culture change, and I think it's just complete coach speak. Like, if you're getting a new job with a new program, you're going to say that we're changing the culture. Because the reality is that there's going to be something that the last staff did, good, bad, or otherwise, that doesn't gel with your philosophy or what you like. And I know one of the big things that they did and they continue to do is they were really trying to revamp the roster. They were really trying to go after high character guys. They let go of some guys last year that had some character concerns. They trimmed some more this year as well. And they've really said, you know what, we're prepared to go with a smaller roster of guys that are bought into what we want to do. Let them enjoy the experience, and hopefully within those guys we're going to get that buy-in. The one thing that I always am cautious of with this league, really the junior league in general, particularly the PFC, is it is challenging to keep your athletes in-house in the PFC, especially when they get themselves some national notoriety. That's when the CIS schools start knocking on their doors. And it's tough to compete with those CIS schools. It's tough to keep kids for 3, 4, and 5 years in your program. And when you're able to keep those kids 3, 4, and 5 years in your program, that's when you really start to see the success, because you're starting to develop. You're able to keep your first and second year players and groom them to come along, and you create that culture within. And I think that's what Coach Wilson is trying to get after, because he keeps mentioning the Hilltops as the kind of pinnacle of the CJFL and what all teams are trying to aspire to be. And if you look at one of the things that the Hilltops have constantly had is they've constantly had 3, 4, and 5-year guys on their roster. And it makes a difference when it comes down to the last half of the year when the games really, really start to matter going into the playoffs, that veteran leadership. And the Rifles have always struggled. I mean, we've got a great CIS program here in Winnipeg with a great facility, and we lose guys to that program on a regular basis, and so we should. You want to see your athletes go and do well, but you want to see them go and play, and a lot of these athletes want to go and play. Sometimes what needs to happen is they need to maybe temper their expectations a little bit and realize that maybe leaving this year isn't the right year, and I should stay one more year because I'm going to get the reps, and maybe next year I'm going to be able to go to whatever school I want to. The possibilities could be endless. Whereas you go and they've got a 4 or 5 year back on their roster already, so you're now number 4 or 5 on the depth chart. And I think once these guys start to get wise to it and they start to learn that's the ultimate goal for a lot of these guys, to play at the highest level possible, and so they should. But to me, when you're talking about playing football, that's not just putting on a practice jersey. That's putting on the game pants, the game jersey, and going out there on game day. I mean, that's all the hard work. You know, the game day's kind of payday. And if you're just in sweats, and you've gone from being the guy to being in sweats, that's a humble pie to eat.
Yeah, and you know, it kind of echoes something that Coach Snoop said to us last night when we were talking to him and getting his thoughts on this game. Is he's talking about how sometimes guys who come from the CIS, who have spent a couple of years on the practice roster, yeah, they were practicing with the CIS team, but they're less polished. They're not battle tested. They haven't been in those games. So for those young guys who are thinking about leaving junior football to go to the CIS, you could say the same thing. You know, if you're going to be battle tested on the field for another season and you know that you might not be walking into a favorable situation at a CIS program, maybe stick around for a year. Maybe think twice about that before you leave, because you might be walking into a situation where you're just going to go sit on the bench again, but you could be going to compete against a guy who's doing the opposite, who hasn't played in 2 years, and you could walk in playing 3 years in a row and smoke them because you have that battle-tested mentality.
Yeah, you can't beat live reps as far as I'm concerned. Live in-game reps. By the way, there's still a football game going on the field.
Calgary scrimmaging from their 3-yard line. Bailey Wasdale with a nice run out of bounds with 34 seconds left on the clock, advancing the ball up to the Calgary 19-yard line.
Certainly looks like the Rifles are going to be celebrating a big win this evening. I don't know where the boys will be going, but I'm sure it'll get a little rambunctious. And I'm sure that, Coach Wilson, Boshin, and the rest of his staff will be enjoying it as well, and makes the long weekend a little bit sweeter. You know, one thing I'd like to say about the Rifles is that secondary played lights out for them today, creates a lot of opportunities for them up front in the...
Bailey Wasdale tracked down from behind.
And offensively, that run game, that three-headed monster when they go with Rempel, Ogaden, and Rashad in the backfield is... doesn't matter who keeps the ball, they're all scary with it in them. They're all flash players. Hopefully things are okay with Xander Tuchinski, their best receiver. That would maybe be a bit of a limitation, but again, he's got an extra week to heal up, so hopefully he comes back. And then, one of the big highlights here is how well this rookie quarterback has handled the moment. He's going to get, it looks like he's going to get to kneel this game out for him. He's on the field for the W anyways, so and good for him. If we can keep the flag
from flying, maybe this will actually maybe this will actually kill the game. They better call it before there's a time count penalty, but at least we should get 20 seconds run off here. And they play their cards right. This could be the last play of the game. Yeah, outstanding effort by Riley Nyox today. Showed a lot of poise, playing in a part-time role, with Jonathan Rempel taking about part-time reps as well. However, I do have to give a shout out to Calgary's quarterback, Bailey Wasdell. He showed unbelievable poise, especially in the second half, guiding his team down the field. We were expecting Dylan Minshall to be the catalyst of their offense, and not that he had a poor game, but I think that the catalyst today for me was Bailey Wasdell on the Calgary Colts offense. I had a phenomenal game.
I couldn't agree with you more, Nate. And if you're the Calgary Colts, that's a nice piece to be able to build around at the most important position on the football field.
Absolutely. So with that, we complete our game with the Winnipeg Rifles beating the Calgary Colts 42-25 in CJFL action here on Saturday night at Investors Group Field in Winnipeg.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time on Shaw TV.